And a welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. Happy to be here with you every single Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We appreciate you being here with us. As you can see behind me, we are in Greensboro, North Carolina, and we are broadcasting live. So we'll be with you all throughout the week, normal scheduled time, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And on Saturday, we'll also be with you on March 11th. As we are down here covering the ACC tournament, 15 schools in 5 days. And on top of that, I am keeping an eye and a pulse on what's going on with conference tournaments all around the country as we look for the automatic bids to punch their tickets to the NCAA tournament, and a lot of great stuff coming up, including our bracket challenge here on Wake Up Call. Inside of these Cafe Kubal studios, I implore you to head over to 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, 401 South Salina Street in Syracuse, as well as by going to the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners in North Syracuse for their drive-through location, and to 343 Fayette Street in Manlius. Inside of MonPawsPopcorn.com's What's Poppin', you know that every other Tuesday bi-monthly we have Christy's Corner featuring the International Boxing Hall of Famer Christy Salters Martin. We have a great conversation coming up, proudly presented exclusively by PB&J's Lunchbox on 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. And Pat Orr, the owner of PB&J's, will be joining us, as she always does, to give her thoughts and her take as well. And then later on in hour number 1 at 9:45 a.m. Eastern Time, I'll be joined by Kris Joseph, Syracuse Orange Basketball alum. You know, for Tourney Time Talk, I do it every single tournament time when it comes to Syracuse win or lose during tournament week, championship week. I have Tourney Time Talk for many years with the Syracuse Orange Basketball alumni. Kris Joseph is going to start off our week this season, and he'll be joining me to give his take on Boeheim and so much more, including the current state of Syracuse. And then Dennis DuVal will join us at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time to give his take on the Orange, his take on Jim Boeheim, and to speak on the guys that just had their jerseys retired, Jerry McNamara and Hakeem Warwick, as Dennis DuVal's jersey is also hanging from the rafters at the Dome in Syracuse, New York. And we'll round out the show with the ingredients to success, proudly presented by the wonderful people at Avicolli's on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York. You are tuning in live every Monday through Friday, as I said, on YouTube.com, Facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT. We're also on WakeUpCallDT.podbean.com this morning. Podbean going out worldwide for the first time ever as we share that history with Christy Salters Martin and all of you. And of course, we're on WakeUpCallDT.com. So with that being said, let's bring in Christy Salters Martin for Christy's Corner here exclusively on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Christy, how are you?
I'm well. How are you this morning, Dan?
I'm doing very well, Christy, and we have a lot of stuff to get into, a lot of things to talk about. I know that Kansas Hope House, the event that you just had, we mentioned it a couple weeks ago, and I know you wanted to talk about it, so let's jump in right there and get your thoughts on it.
We had a great event Saturday night in Kansas City. We brought together, Christy's Champs brought together the Hope House in Kansas City, that is domestic violence shelter, and they have many, many different programs there for survivors and their families. But what we did, we married that with my other passion, boxing, the amateur boxing. So Kansas City Golden Gloves team came together. We put on 6 spectacular bouts and just married. Everybody started to understand why domestic violence awareness and amateur boxing programs can really benefit each other. And it was just a great night. We were at the Uptown Theater. Cam Awesome was the commentator. He, a great amateur boxer himself back in the day. And as I said, it was just an all-around great event. Lots of good bouts, and met a lot of really interesting people. And the great thing for me being at those events, usually somebody will get me over to the side and share their story with me, and I feel blessed that someone will trust me enough to open up and say, this is what did happen to me, this is what is happening to me, and I want to always be there and give them whatever strength, whatever support that I can, but to also put them in the direction of a place like the Hope House, because I know at that point they're in good hands.
Yeah, like you said, bonding two things that you're passionate about, two things that are important to you in speaking of domestic abuse, domestic violence, and at the same time boxing. To marry those two together, people wouldn't always think, Hope House and boxing could find a way to fit together and to be able to be interwoven. How did you find a way to tie them together?
Well, that was the first thing actually they asked me to talk about on Saturday night, was how I was able to join the two together. And Mary Ann, she is the person that runs Hope House. So when I first said to her, let's do amateur boxing and raise money for both groups, and she was like, Christy, I just don't know, how does boxing and domestic violence, how do they go together? And I started to explain to her about the dynamics of a boxing gym and how important it is that if we want to break the cycle, these are the young people, boys and girls, that we need to reach out to. And as I talked to her, and I even asked her, I said, look, if you have the opportunity, just stop into a boxing gym. You'll understand what I'm talking about, because boxing gyms are families. The coach, they're always holding the boxers accountable. Like, are you going to school? Are you showing respect to your parents? Are you, what are your grades? Not just are you going to school? Are you passing your classes? So it really becomes a place where you can feel that you're loved. And some people at home don't always have that same feeling that they actually have love and support. So boxing gyms become families. And therefore, it just makes sense to me that domestic violence awareness and boxing easily go together.
Yeah, you talk about, some people don't have families, so boxing, going there and being a part of wherever people are, when you go to the ring, that they feel like they have a family, they have somebody that's taking care of them, somebody that cares about them, someone that's keeping them off the street, someone of them that's maybe keeping them from going back home because home's not great. How does the ring become a place, a sanctuary, so to speak, even though it is, obviously a violent sport? How can the ring become a place where you can really feel safe and feel whole again?
Well, there are rules. And to me, boxing in the gym and in the ring, that was my safe place. And I feel like that I can, through my life story and my experiences, I can share that with other people and let them know that it can also be their safe place. And it can be, you never have to go in there and compete. If you just go into a boxing gym and do the workout, and as you become more physically fit, you also become more mentally fit and more mentally strong. I always tell the story of, if somebody sees their predator and they're out there looking at two different people, and one's walking down the street, shoulders slumped over, head down, and the other is walking with shoulders back and head up high, they're not going to pick on that person. They're going to pick on that person that they see as weak. And so through the boxing gym, that's what you started to just build confidence. It's self-confidence, and it has nothing to do with physical confrontations or actually fighting. It's just about the self-awareness and self-confidence that boxing can bring.
And I love that, and I appreciate that, and I applaud the fact that, you pay it forward. And there's so many different things we're going to talk about today in Christy's Corner with Christy Salters Martin, proudly presented exclusively by PB&J's Lunchbox here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Christy, you have been a beacon of hope for so many people, and you've given people the reality that you can move forward, you can get out, you can get better. What does it mean to you sitting here today? Not only that you're alive, but that because of you, potentially, somebody else is alive as well.
Of all the accomplishments and trophies and belts and stuff that you can get in your life, what means the most is that I am a survivor, but that I have helped other people. And as you said, given them strength. I mean, that's some heavy stuff. When somebody can come to you or sends me messages through social media that because of watching the Netflix documentary, because of reading the book, or just hearing my story with us here, that it's changed their world and maybe given them the strength to leave the situation that they're in, or to reach out. Now they know there are people that they can reach out to. That's heavy, but I'm proud. I'm very, very proud.
That coming here from Christy Salters Martin, and appreciate everything that we get to talk about. There's a lot of amazing pieces of today, and I do want to welcome Pat Orr into the building because she's here with us. So, Pat, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. Happy to have you here. So Pat's here with us today, and she comes in. Pat, the owner of PB&J's Lunchbox, which Christy's Corner is exclusively brought to you by. So she is going to be here with us, asking some questions as we go, and as different pieces come in. But Christy, I did want to get to a few things that are going on. I know you wanted to talk about David Benavidez and Caleb Plant, their fight that's coming up. So I know that was important to you. So I'd love to head there next to get your thoughts on it.
I just say for boxing, it's a great fight. And so many times, so many weeks pass that everybody wants to talk about there's a fight. But this is a meaningful fight. This is the big fight. And, I think Caleb Plant's a good fighter. But I think Benavidez is he's just built differently. I mean, to me, I don't ever think that Canelo will fight him. It's too risky. I really like him. This is a guy that I think brings a big shock back to boxing. The boxing fans, they're paying to see people get knocked out, and we don't really want to see people just box. And Pernell Whitaker was great at what he did. Floyd was great at what he did, but the fight fans still they want to see Mike Tyson. They want to see people get knocked out, and so this is what I think Benavidez brings to the ring.
Yeah, no, I love that. I'm definitely looking forward to what's coming up. And we have something here, and I'm sure Pat will have some thoughts on this, but you're working with Don King once again. And I would love for you to share what's going on with Don King.
I'm happy to be joined back with Don King Productions. Don King is the best promoter that's ever done it. I'm excited. I was with him on Wednesday. I sat with him for 3 or 4 hours, and we just got the game plan together of how we're going to attack the next year. And Don King Productions will be doing a fight every quarter. And Trevor Bryant had a title. He wants to come back and redeem himself. He had a very poor showing when he had the big shot, but I think he understands, and now he wants to try to get back to that point. We have Ian Green. He is a middleweight that people, if you do not know who Ian Green is, look up his last fight on YouTube. That was the fight of the decade candidate. I mean, it's too bad that it wasn't out there on Showtime or some kind of pay-per-view, Fox, so a lot of people would have seen it, because this man brought it. So I'm a big fan. I told him after the fight that night he has a new fan in his corner. So I'm excited about what he's going to bring to the boxing world as we go through this next year.
Yeah, definitely excited about it, and to see what's going to be coming here from you and Don King together again, which I know to a lot of people is music to their ears. Pat, what do you think about the fact that Christy's going to be back with Don King again?
I think as long as Christy's in boxing and doing what she does best, it's gonna be good for boxing. Don King needs to keep the action going, and I think Christy's the one that can do it for him.
Yeah, when you hear Chris, I mean, you shot a bunch of different things, Pat, and photography-wise, you've gotten to see a lot of things through your lens. When you think about Don King and you think about Christy and their ability to both promote, because not just Don King, but also what Christy has done with her company as well, what should people know about an event that has Christy and Don behind it?
Usually it means there's going to be a lot of action. Good fights and a lot of fights. I know whenever I went to Don King fights, there were so many fights on the card, and they never disappointed. There may have been one fight that ended in a surprise upset or something like that, but there was always action, and there were always big names on the cards, and the up-and-coming ones ended up being big names. So it was always exciting to go to Don King fights and stuff. In Vegas, I went to several of them, and, from the press conferences, the weigh-ins, up to the fights, there was always action, always people around, a lot of celebrities. It was good for boxing.
And Christy, for you, I mean, Don, as you had mentioned before, he was there and gave an opportunity to you and helped you with your career. What do you want to say back to him? And you may have said it to him yourself already, but what would you want to say to him about his part in everything you've done?
Oh, I think, so many people want to talk about my fight with Gogarty, that really changed the world of women's boxing. But really what changed the world of women's boxing was Don King giving us the opportunity, because no other promoter at that time, no other promoter was putting women fights on. And then to put a woman fight on a Tyson card, a pay-per-view card, it was a great opportunity. And people forget that. A lot of people always want to say something negative about Don King, but he's done a lot of positive, and he's put together some of the biggest and best fights for 30 years, 40 years. And he'll continue to do that.
Yeah, and that's and he is larger than life. So, when you see him and the way that he goes about everything, I mean, he's an entertainer. Christy, can you speak to that? I mean, who is he behind the scenes as opposed to in front? Is he larger than life all the time, or does he kind of just like mellow out when he's away from the camera? How would you describe Don King?
Well, I think in front of the camera, Don King is definitely can hype up any fight or any situation. And can sell it. He's a great promoter. But when it's sitting across the table, business, it's business. It's a different conversation, a different voice, a different laugh even. So he's a great guy really to work with, and it's just too bad that so many people have so much negative that they want to put out there about him. And it's the people that are spewing so much negativity that have never worked with him a day in their life. They don't even know him personally. So, it's just too bad. But we're gonna do a lot of fun things this year, exciting things, bring some real big bang back to the boxing world.
I think we need to break the internet and put Don King on here with you. I think we.
You know what? We can try. The only problem is he doesn't usually get up until like noon.
So we're gonna have
he stays up really late at night, and then he's like noon before he gets up moving.
Well, I stay up really late at night, and so does Pat Orr, but we still get up really early. So I don't know if you know this, Christy, but Pat is she's a fan of sports, obviously, but she's a fan of Syracuse basketball. And a game will end at, like, let's say 10:17 p.m. And I won't get anything because, Pat will text me like the last few minutes of the game. I'll get a message or two. And then there's an hour or two lull. And at midnight, she's in it, just texting me long things about what's going on with the team and why is this. And she'll ask a question, but it's rhetorical because she has thoughts. Hey, has she done that with you before where it's like, okay, something ends and she's like, okay, these are my thoughts initially. Then she goes home. She has a sandwich, probably from PB&J's. She takes some time with it. And after she has that, buffalo chicken grilled cheese, she is in it 2 hours later. Have you experienced Pat Orr giving you kind of like that little break period and then hitting you with all that knowledge?
No, not really, but Pat also knows that I go to bed like crazy early and get up with the chickens. So, she knows even if she texts me something late, my phone's off. So I'm gonna answer her like when I get up with the chickens at 6:00 in the morning and she's still sleeping. So, yeah. But I mean, we have some really good conversations. Sometimes we actually just talked about Syracuse basketball and Jim Boeheim. And when you're a winner, you're a winner. You've done nothing but win. And maybe you don't have that same kind of season. All the haters want to come out on you. So we did talk about that recently.
Well, I'm going to let Pat have a moment in here because I posted something yesterday. I posted it early. I was flying down to Greensboro, North Carolina, where we're live all week, Wake Up Call OTR, which is a wake-up call on the road. And so in the morning, I said, you know what? There's some things I have to say about Jim Boeheim. And I need to just get it out. So I got these words out, and they have been taken up by many people around the world. So I'd love to get Pat's thoughts, and Christy, you can weigh in as well, because like you said, when you know what it's like, right? When you're winning in any sport, and when you're not, people have a different opinion of you, and then when you start winning again, it changes right back. So I put up a lot of different things, but the one thing I want to get to here is something that I think I said it to Pat this past week, which is the reality is Jim Boeheim is a prisoner of his own success. He created the standard for Syracuse men's basketball, which in my opinion is 20-plus wins and a Sweet 16 or bust every year. If he doesn't get the team there, he's a failure to some because he didn't hit the level that he created. But the thing is, where would Syracuse be without that? Would they have known that level? How would Syracuse fans define, quote-unquote, a good season without Jim Boeheim? Pat, I love your thoughts.
My thoughts. I think Jim Boeheim's done incredible things for the city of Syracuse, let alone Syracuse University. His charitable work and stuff is amazing. But the basketball teams that he has put on the floor and the players that have brought 20 wins a year, we as fans got so used to 20 wins a year that, it's a necessity now that he can't reach. This year he had a lot of young players on the team, and he rode the wave with them, the ups and the downs. People complain about the zone that he doesn't, it's not a good defense for NCAA basketball. Well, it's been a good defense for a lot of years, but there's better shooters out there now. Yeah. If you look back in the 90s, the shooters weren't like they are now. These guys are like, bionic biceps or something. I don't know how some of them come in and make 18 3-pointers against SU, and we can't stop one of them, But I think that he's going to have to make a decision soon so that he goes out on top instead of going out as being like, a bad coach. Because he's not a bad coach. He's a great coach. And he's done remarkable things with players with limited ability. He lets players grow. He lets them go off the chain sometimes. But he's not getting any respect right now, and he's not going to unless he gets back to the 20 wins and gets to the NCAA tournament. Syracuse doesn't accept not being in the NCAA tournament because it's a whole new season, and they expect him to be there, and they expect us to have a chance. It's kind of sad what's going on right now because the ones that are hating, it's they're bandwagoners. Yeah. When he's good, he's great, and when they're not so good, he sucks, and he needs to go.
Well, and the thing about that is, and as I said, he's a prisoner of his own success. The people that love Syracuse basketball, seeing them in the tournament, seeing them get to how many coaches bring a team to the Final Four in multiple decades, and on time once, let alone in multiple decades, showing that his message continued to get through. And his plan that he had has continued to work with players throughout time. You have a championship in there, 1,100 wins. And I did some research on Mr. Jim Boeheim as well as the other coaches in the world. There's only one coach that had never had a losing season of the names that a lot of people know, and that's UCLA's John Wooden. Of the coaches that have had one losing season or less, Dean Smith and Jim Boeheim. Coaches that have had, Coach K has had 4 losing seasons. Jay Wright has had 5. Granted, some of them, were at Hofstra before he got to Villanova. But Jim Boeheim, nobody has won as many games as he has won in one school. He's the only one to do it at one school. He's behind only Coach K. And to do what he's done for as long as he's done, he put Syracuse on the map. I know that Jim Boeheim's a big part of the fact that I can't go anywhere wearing a Syracuse anything without somebody going, yo, Cuse is in the house. So, I appreciate that. And Christy, I'd love to get your thoughts on it because you know what it's like to be in the ring, right? And maybe people like you. You've talked about it before. There's fights where people want you to win. There's fights where people don't want you to win. And they're booing you coming in. And then when you're going out, all of a sudden they're a Christy Martin fan. So how do you deal with walking into an arena with booze galore and then walk out and people going, I knew you could do it. I was rooting for you from the beginning. Right.
That's so true. First of all, I am a Syracuse fan, basketball fan since Derek Coleman days. So, what Jim Boeheim has done up there is remarkable. And he's a boxing fan. He was the Grand Marshal for the boxing induction Hall of Fame parade one year. So that was cool. Yeah. But Yeah, I think the biggest thing or biggest time that happened to me was I walked into Madison Square Garden with the place going crazy for me. Oh, Christy, Christy, Christy. And then Isra Gergra fought a great fight. I knocked her down, but I still won the fight very convincingly. But I was booed at the end because she was tough enough and durable enough to take it. So, yeah, the fans will turn on you in a heartbeat, and I mean, it's just part of sports. You decide to be an athlete, that's what's going to happen. And it's a sad thing, I always said with my personal team, we won, but I lost, and that's definitely the way it feels. I'm sure for Jim Boeheim right now.
Yeah, and I'm down here in Greensboro to see him get after it again and to do what he can do. I mean, there's already people. It's funny. Somebody messaged me, a fan of the team, and he said, "Here's my list of coaches that can take over." And I said, "Take over what?" And he said, "For Syracuse." I said, "Are you trying to push the man out the building? He didn't quit yet. He didn't leave yet." So but there's always that conversation. And I have a good relationship with Jim. We've had a good relationship for over a decade. And from the time I came back to Syracuse, I've sat in his office, just me and him, and I feel like he's misunderstood. And at the same time, and you can also attest to this, Christy, when you're around the media long enough, and please understand, it's not just athletes and coaches, it's people that are in the media. I have to sit with them in a room, and you have to sit with them in a room. We know that the majority of that room are vultures just waiting for someone to look a little bit dead so they can start biting on them. So, with all due respect to Jim Boeheim, I know that he doesn't have the best bedside manner that some people might want. But at the same time, I've been in that room for over a decade with him, listening and seeing how people talk to them, seeing people smirk after asking him a question, and the articles that they've written about him after. So I can understand to a certain extent why Jim Boeheim is not the biggest fan of the media, and I can understand why some coaches and athletes aren't either, because telling the truth in the media is a lost art. I consider that to be my paintbrush, but I know that not everybody lives that way. And Christy, I'm sure you know that as well.
Oh, it's very hard because especially with print writers, you can say one thing, but they can write something else. One of the things with doing interviews, I like to do live because you can't edit it. And I may say something that afterwards I'm like, oh shit, I shouldn't have said that. But at least I said it. No one changed my words around. No one switched it around. No one made it sound like I said this when I was really talking about something else. So yeah, live is the best. And it is hard talking with print reporters, especially because they will, misconstrue what you said, and just one more word can change the whole meaning of your paragraph. So yeah, it's dangerous. You have to.
She said it's called sound bites for a reason.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And that was a shameless plug for Christy's Corner because you said live is the best, and we are live every other Tuesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, exclusive on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Christy's Corner, bi-monthly, every other Tuesday with the champ, Christy Salters-Martin. Christy, before we get into rapid fire with Pat here, I know you wanted to talk about a few different things. One thing we didn't get to talk about the last episode that we did, with this being episode 3, is that you are going to be in a movie, correct?
Well, it's kind of like a biopic documentary, filmed in West Virginia. So I'll be going back home in a couple of weeks to film. And now I don't have to go far. It's about a boxer. This is the only stretch that I'm a mother of this fighter. But I was a successful world champion boxer. He struggled trying to be a boxer, but not quite making it. Now he has a son that's a good boxer, so he's kind of caught in the middle of his mother being successful, his son on the right track, and yeah, it's going to be interesting. I get to be the trainer. I'm a West Virginian, a trainer, a boxer, so I really get to go play me. But I'll get to spend some time back home with my family, and that'll be cool.
So you are. What are you going to say, Pat?
Oh, I didn't say anything.
Oh, okay. No, I thought you said something here. What I was gonna say is, this, like you said, you get to go home and you get to play you. You get to be around your family, Christy. I'm already excited to see it, based on what you said. Right? You're successful. you have a son who hasn't been as successful in it, and now you have a grandson who is successful. So like you said, the story of being caught in between while the family has had it, and you're like, okay, did it skip a generation? What's going on? And how is he going to deal with his son's success, his mother's success, but then trying to find himself through it all? And I'm sure you're both going to guide him there. So I'm really excited to, heck, if I had the opportunity, I would have written this one. So I'll tell you that much.
It's cool. We're actually going to film by around the Tough Man contest, an actual Tough Man contest happening in Beckley, West Virginia. So Jerry Thomas, who's promoted me when I started in Tough Man, he'll be promoting the event that we're going to be we'll film at. It's going to be cool. Back home, get to see my family, my friends, and then get to just kind of play me. So it's not a stretch, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
No, I'm very excited to see it. And right before Rapid Fire, Golden Gloves VR, we talked about this the last show. And Christy, this virtual reality game where you can become the boxer has really blown up. And you and I were talking off the air about the fact that it's getting picked up in different places. There's a lot of things going on with it. You're one of the commentators that people can hear while they're boxing and playing in these fights. So I'd love to get your thoughts on an update from Golden Gloves VR and what's going on.
It is just getting better and better and bigger and bigger. It's getting picked up in lots of different, the whole video game world. And actually, we're going to do a Christy Martin. I'll be one of the boxers on the game as well as one of the commentators. Awesome. So that's going to be exciting. But another aspect of this, we're going to be able to do workout sessions. So like you can log in and I can be your coach. And it'll be live. It'll be like a virtual workout. So it's that is going to be a lot of fun, and I'm excited about all the possibilities that game's going to bring.
So I can, through virtual reality, be trained by Christy Salters Martin.
Yes, and we're using it with the Parkinson's classes. Yeah. We're going to use it with the domestic violence shelters. And again, this is where I'm not talking about doing it as physical work, competing against somebody. I'm talking about using it just for the workout to improve your self-confidence. It's not about fighting somebody. It's about working out and just physically becoming more fit and stronger physically, which makes you stronger mentally.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, doing growing up, my mom would have videos that she would work out to, right? And now this makes it more real because you're working out with us, and through virtual reality, obviously you still have to move your body, so you're training us, and through something that can maybe take people's attention off it, because some people don't like to work out because they think about working out. So if they're in virtual reality, they're having fun, they're boxing, you're there, then now they're living in a world where it's fun and it's exciting, and they don't really realize how much work they're putting in initially, and then hopefully they fall in love with it. And I love that you're doing it with Parkinson's, because my adopted grandfather, who's up in heaven right now, my Pop Pandozzi, he had Parkinson's, and obviously I got to, this past year with Superpowered Pop, got to be around Michael J. Fox, so I appreciate the work you're doing with that. Thank you for that.
Cool. We're big supporters with Ryan Roach, who is in the Boston area. He does a great job with the Punch for Parkinson's. So yeah, we're that's it. God left me here to make a difference, and that's what I'm trying to do.
God left me here to make a difference, and that's what I'm trying to do. It doesn't get better than that. And now we have rapid fire. So Pat, you get to. So we're going to go round robin. We're going to go forward and backward through the group here. Pat, you get to ask Christy. Christy asks me, and then we'll go back in this edition of Christy's Corner, Episode 3, exclusively on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, bi-monthly on Tuesdays at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, proudly presented by PB&J's Lunchbox, 6630 Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. If you know what's good for you, trust the champ and get yourself that buffalo chicken grilled cheese. And if you trust me, I think I've ordered half the menu at this point, but I would say the barbecue chicken quesadilla. And if Pat's there, have her make you some nachos. The tuna melt's fantastic as well. The chili. There's so many great things at PB&J. So, Pat, you got the first question for Christy.
Thank you, Dan. Christy, I'm going against two questions here. I'm not sure which one I'm going to throw at you. I think I'm going to go with the second one. What was the most fun year that you had at the Boxing Hall of Fame induction? And what generation of boxers did you enjoy listening to their stories during the weekend the most?
Well, the best year, this with hands down, the best year, well, I don't know. I guess we could talk about sections, but I think the best year that I went to the Boxing Hall of Fame was the first year, 1996, because I got to meet so many legends that first year with Carmen, Gene Fulmer, Willie Pep, Archie Moore. I mean, Bob Foster. The list goes on and on. So, and those were the guys to sit and listen to them talk about training, to them talk about fighting each other. It was amazing to me. Angelo Dundee was there, Lou Duva. Unbelievable stories that I got to hear from those guys. And it's very special. It's too bad the Hall of Fame now is not really taking place right there in Canastota at Graziano's and everybody right there on the grounds. It's over at the Turning Stone, which is great for the Turning Stone, but yeah, it was those days when it was smaller and more concise was better, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I like that. Christy, what do you got for me?
I agree.
So I'm going to put you on the spot. So we're talking about Syracuse basketball.
Yeah.
If Coach Boeheim were to retire, who would you put in as the next one?
So the next head coach of Syracuse, thank you for the question. I appreciate it. So through time, I've thought about some things, and I know people think Matt Langle, who is the head coach of Colgate, and I think the reason why people think that is because he's beaten Jim Boeheim twice in a row. I don't think people would even consider Matt Langle if he hadn't done something like that. So I know different names have come up in time, and I respect Matt Langle, and I think he kind of laughed it off because of, just people being fake fans for a minute. But if it was up to me, knowing the people that I've known over the years and knowing how Jim puts together a staff of Syracuse Orange Basketball alumni, I think somewhere in the future maybe we'll see Jerry McNamara be a head coach. Alan Griffin, I've spent a lot of time with him. I know he's been an assistant for a while. I don't know if he would want to be a head coach. I would have to talk to him more about that. But I know that Adrian Autry and I have had conversations about this years and years ago. And a lot of people don't know this. They think they're all assistants. He's the associate head coach. And what that means is if Jim Boeheim gets sick, if Jim Boeheim gets kicked out of a game, if he gets suspended, then as Adrian put it to me years ago, I get the clipboard. And so he is the right hand to Jim Boeheim right now. And he's also been responsible for bringing in a lot of NBA players to Syracuse. A lot of guys that went on to the draft went on to be successful in the NBA. They give a lot of credit to Mike Hopkins, but it was Mike and Adrian. And what Adrian's been able to do, I mean, I remember he flew to Slovakia to see Marek Dolezaj and his dad. And he was the only one that did that. And he told me in advance, he was like, don't say anything. I'm going overseas. I'm going to go see this kid. I think I can get him. And I kept it to myself, which 99.9% of the media wouldn't have done. And he and Marek told me afterwards, he said, I had some coaches call me. He was the only person that came to see me and my dad. So, Adrian's a special type of person. He's a special type of recruiter. He deserves the opportunity. He deserves the chance. And no interim, no give you 2 years, see if you're good at it. I think Syracuse needs to do the right thing and let the man who has stayed there for a very long time, I think the second longest next to Mike Hopkins, to give him an opportunity to be there and to be the head coach. I would love to see what he does to motivate as a head coach. I love what he's done as an assistant and as a recruiter, and I would give it to Adrian Autry because as Dabo Sweeney said to me this past year, he said, here's Clemson Tiger, multi-time national champion, who's also a big believer in God. He said to me, I asked him, I said, why did you promote from within? You promoted 2 guys that were assistant coaches to be offensive and defensive coordinator. Why did you do that? And he said, well, it's simple. He said, a lot of people have questioned me. A lot of people haven't liked it. But he said, when you have people in your business, in any type of business, and they're worthy of a promotion, and they've done the work and they've done what they needed to do to get the promotion, and you don't promote them from within, you destroy the culture of your business. And so he believes in promoting from within when someone deserves that job. And to keep that same motif going, that's why I would give it to Adrian Autry, because if you don't give it to Adrian, you are destroying your culture, and you're also destroying everything Adrian's done over the years by telling him that what he's done was enough, but he wasn't worthy. And I don't believe that. So Adrian Autry.
Cool.
Good answer.
Thank you. So I'm going to go to Pat. All right, Pat. You know what? Christy asked me, you and I talked about it, but I never firmly sat down and asked you thoroughly on this. Who would you have as the next Syracuse coach?
I wouldn't mind having Adrian Autry as coach because I think that he definitely has put the work in, and I think he has a really good rapport with the players. I think he's motivating, and I think they would respect him. I think one of the problems with Jim Boeheim and the young generation that comes in, you'll see him talk to Judah Mintz, and Judah Mintz will walk away, and that's really disrespectful. And I think that's one of the things that Jim Boeheim is lacking now is, like, the respect from his players. And, I mean, he definitely lacks the respect from fans because if he does anything wrong, they're on him. But I think that I think Adrian Autry is I think Jerry McNamara with him would be great because I think both of them have really put their time in, along with Griffin, and I think the three of them together would be a whole new generation and a whole new atmosphere. And I think that's what Syracuse needs the most. They need a winning atmosphere and players that are going to commit 200%, not 100%. Because I think what we saw this year with the four-game slide was a little lack of effort on the defense. A lot of people standing around, and if you're playing a zone, you can't stand around. You really gotta bust it out there to stop people. And I think with the amount of threes that were being made, that defense just wasn't working. But I think Adrian Autry wouldn't be a bad one. If I had to go outside of Syracuse University, I would probably bring in the Villanova coach.
Yeah,
because I think his personality is good with young people, and I think he can motivate them.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you bring up Jay Wright because Jay Wright, I was with him last year at the Big East tournament around this time, and seeing him out there, I did not anticipate that when I interviewed him that he would retire right after. And so he's kind of like retired early, and I don't know if he's completely out of it. I never thought he would leave Villanova, but now that he's retired, he would be a good phone call to make for sure because he's now got time to think about it and the fact that he hasn't been out there. So that going to Pat. Pat, what's your question for me?
Well, I was fighting with two questions for you, too. The first one was, what's going on with the red Mustang you posted on Facebook? Is it a purchase or a midlife crisis? And my other question was, who's the worst person you've ever interviewed? But I don't know if you would reveal that on.
Yeah. So the Mustang is because God is great. And so I had a really cool thing. So I got into Greensboro. And as I'm coming through the airport, I was just about to the rental car place. I'm walking down. I'm on like the last couple steps. And I hear, Daniel Tortora, could you please come over to Delta? We have a special message for you, Daniel. And I was like, God? It was such a weird, it was, to hear my name like that. So that was, yeah, God, Mom. So, so it was really, that was really cool. And so that happened. Then I went over to the rental car place, and the guy looks at me and he goes, do you want a sports car? And I was like, yeah, I do. And he was like, okay, we can give you a Challenger or we can give you a Mustang. And I looked at him. I knew what I wanted, but I said, you choose. And so the lady and the guy were there. She hands it to him. She goes, you choose. And so he chose for me. And then he came over to me. He didn't say anything. He went through the whole process. And then as he handed me the keys, he said, your red Mustang will be waiting outside for you, sir. And so, yeah, so I got the Stang. And I'll tell you this, which I didn't know. When you shut the door on the Mustang at night, it leaves a Mustang logo on the ground that's illuminated. So I'm just saying right now, I'm very excited, and I get to roll up to the ACC tournament in my Mustang, which is pretty sweet. So I do like the Mustangs, not a purchase yet. And worst person I've ever interviewed, I've had over 4,000 people on the show, and I got to tell you that pretty much everybody's been nice. There was a couple guys at Jets camp that I'll leave unnamed that were rude, and I don't know why they were rude. And I guess I don't understand the reason for it. Maybe it was ego at the time. Maybe they were just hot. They had a bad day. But I usually go back to that moment and say, like, why would you be mean? And some of them were mean to the fans, but, you know, they're not there anymore. So I guess we can leave that. And one of the guys follows me on Instagram and likes my posts, so good for him. So, yeah, I wouldn't say anybody's been horrible, but I will say that there was a couple days at Jets camp in SUNY Cortland where I think guys were a little overheated. So thank you for that. All right, Christy. Christy, if you took over Wake Up Call for a day, who are the 3 guests that you would interview?
Wow. I would have Don King.
Okay.
For sure. That would be Don King. Mike Tyson, sticking with the boxing theme, and my mother.
Okay. I like it. Don King, Mike Tyson, and your mom. And now that you've said that, we need all 3 of them to join us on Christy's Corner. So you got to figure that out.
My mom's probably listening. She's actually at dialysis right now, so she's hopefully she's listening. I love you, Mom, if you are listening.
Shout out to Mom.
Love you too, Mom.
Yeah, shout out to Mom. We all love you, Pat, Christy, and my. Listen, I know when there's a smile from a daughter or a son about a good mom. So Christy's got a big smile over here. That means that Mom must have done something right. So shout out to you, Mom. Thanks for raising Christy, and thanks for, making her as strong as she is and being a part of that to have her here today. So shout out to Mom and all the good moms and good dads everywhere. Christy, you have the last one for Pat. I love that we got to celebrate 8 moms today. That's so cool. Thank you for that. What do you got for Pat?
Yeah, I'm going to put you on the spot. Who would you say is the worst attitude that you ever encountered at the International Boxing Hall of Fame?
Oh boy. There might have been a few, but I don't know if I should really name them.
I feel like I set you up easily for this answer.
Yeah.
You're not thinking like we're not on the same wavelength like that. I thought for sure you would come right back with.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. I'd have to
The
say
worst person. That doesn't have to be a boxer. It could be just a person with the boxer.
She's really trying to get that answer out.
I don't know if I'm really going to know that. It's too early for me for that. I would have to say
I thought for sure that I thought easily Pat was going to say Jim Martin. So, yeah.
I put him out of my head though, but yeah, he was the worst by far. He definitely didn't like me, and he definitely was not easy to deal with. So I don't miss him at all. He can never come back. That would be a godsend. But some other attitudes, I would have to say Clarissa Shields, because she needs to be a little bit humble. Mm-hmm. The ones that aren't humble and they come in there all cocky and stuff, it's kind of tough to deal with. Antonio Tarver was tough to deal with the first time he came, but after that he was, more humbled and like, wow, this is cool. So I try not to remember the ones that are bad.
There you go. That's right.
Because it's a great event, and just seeing all the fighters, seeing all the different personalities. I asked you about the generation thing because the old timers were freaking awesome. Bo Jack, Kid Gavilan, Muhammad Ali. It was amazing that Muhammad Ali had, the medical issues, but would come back to the Hall of Fame 5-6 years later and would remember people, you know, and shake their hands and all that. So, you know, that's the old timers were great. The younger ones, they need to be a little more humble. They aren't as great as the old timers, really. So I guess I would kind of go with that. But by far, Jim Martin was the worst. Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree, and I don't know him, so so I would say that. So that coming from Pat Orr, the owner of PB&J's Lunchbox, 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Head out there today by the Thruway, Destiny USA, the Highway, as well as Onondaga Lake Parkway, centrally located for you. Christy's Corner with Christy Salters. Martin, the champ, here with us, the International Boxing Hall of Famer, every other Tuesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, exclusively on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Christy, final word. You have anything else you'd like to share?
No, I just remember everybody out there to take extra notice of your coworkers, your family, your friends, your neighbors, whatever might be their issue, whether it be domestic violence or just anything going on in their life. Kindness is free, so don't be hesitant to share it.
You know, you've said a lot of things today, a lot of great quotes. A lot of put it on the T-shirt and stare at it in the mirror, but kindness is free. Don't forget to share it. That is a perfect way to end it. Thank you to Christy. Thank you, Pat. And thank you to all of you for watching and listening. We got plenty more coming up here on Wake Up Call. Champ, thanks for being amazing.
Thank you. Thanks, PB&J.
All right, thank you. We got a crunch wrap today for special. Come get it.
Crunch wrap going on today on special, and a lot of great things that are coming up at PB&J's. Those boards that are going to have the mouth-watering food staring at you now. So I'm very excited for all of the awesome things that are happening at PB&J's. I got to eat there recently, and I love the food as always. So thank you, Pat, for all that you do, and thank you, Christy, for reminding us that kindness is free.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Take care. So with that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly need to bring on Kris Joe here. So always excited to have these opportunities. A great time here, and you know that tourney time, the tournament. So looking forward to the opportunity of bringing on Kris Joseph here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We're going to take a step aside for a fast break, and we'll be back with Kris Joseph right after this on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvelanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
Cafe Cabal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafecabal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Cabal needs. Cafe Cabal, coffee for the soul.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315 487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville beats. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they're always here for you.
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
I'm George Townsend of Honda City with some good advice when buying a new car. The true cost of owning a new car is determined by the appraised value when you trade it. No vehicle appraises higher than a Honda. Next, look for low APRs and deep discounts. You also want low maintenance costs and great fuel economy. That's why my advice to you is to buy a new Honda. Looking pre-owned, visit our Honda Certified Used Car Center. Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard, Liverpool, or HondaCity-CNY.com.
It would be a pity if you don't shop at Honda City.
Our corporate purpose at Chick-fil-A is to glorify God by being faithful stewards of all that's entrusted to us and to positively influence all those who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. And what became increasingly clear from our success in Cicero is that people love Chick-fil-A. And also I think we recognized that, we had a great opportunity to grow the brand and grow our platform. I felt incredibly grateful when I was selected to be a Chick-fil-A operator. I think what it's meant for me, what I've come to realize on a very deep level is that this is a calling for me. It's not a career. It's not a job. The Lord called me to be a Chick-fil-A operator and to use these restaurants to glorify Him and to positively influence other people. I'm blessed. I'm very blessed.
Head to Chick-fil-A Clay on 3974 State Route 31 in Liverpool, New York. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, hanging out with you where sports truly meets that thing called life as we are on the road, and happy to be here on the road with you. Wake Up Call OTR is the hashtag that we use as we are on the road, on site, on location in Greensboro, North Carolina, and that is the skyline that you see behind me. So very happy to be here in Greensboro, and we have Kris Joseph on with us. We call it Tourney Time Talk. Is what we do every single tournament time every year right around this time. Right before we head into the NCAA tournament, we have that week of championship week with tournaments going on all around the country. and I spend the entire week with Syracuse Orange Basketball alumni. And obviously they're on with us during the season as well. Now we have the opportunity to have tourney time week where we have Syracuse, no matter what, win, lose, or draw for the Syracuse Orange men's basketball team, we have their student-athlete alumni here with us all the way through, and it means the world to me. So Kris Joseph is here with me right now, live on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. It's been a minute, so the last time that I saw Kris was at NBA Summer League down in Orlando, Florida. So it's been a little bit here, but he's been to the Dome a lot, and I had the opportunity to see him just a few days ago. So I'm very, very much appreciative and thankful to be able to say to you, ladies and gentlemen, Kris Joseph here with us live. Kris, how are we doing?
Yeah, thanks for having me first and foremost. But I'm doing well now. We're coming off of a good win the other day on Saturday in front of a great crowd, in front of some great alum. 2003 national championship reunion. It was a great weekend, man. So I'm feeling great.
Yeah, and I'm happy to have you here, Kris. And for you, when you reflect on your time at Syracuse and you look back to your years that you were there, what sticks out to you the most? What can you kind of, what's kind of top of mind to you that you celebrate when you walk back into the Dome? I'm sure you can't help but have some memories. What are some of those memories?
Well, for one, my memories start before I even, get into the Dome. When I take my drive from Montreal to Syracuse, and I'm on the 401 headed towards the border, Thousand Islands border, and I finally cross it. Now I'm on 81. That's when it starts for me. You know what I mean? I'm headed down 81 South, and all these memories and the goosebumps start coming back up because I remember the brotherhood that was formed throughout my 4 years at Syracuse. So a lot of the guys who I played with, still very close with till this day, have multiple group chats with former players where you just, whatever we're doing, sending motivational things on social media, memes, memories, whatever it may be. So for me, the brotherhood that was formed at Syracuse was huge. And I remember the alum, some guys like John Wallace would come up, Derek Coleman, of course. And at the time, you don't really... You kind of take it for granted, like, unknowingly. They say things like, these are going to be the best 4 years of your life. Make sure that you take in everything. Make sure that, whatever the case, all these things. I'm thinking to myself, man, 4 years, I got 4 years, 3 years left, or 2 years left, And, before you know it, it's over. And you're sitting back, and I'm 34 today, and I sit back, and I'm like, those were the best years of my life. So for me, the brotherhood that was formed, the battles that we had on the court in practice, which led us to be, some of the better teams in Syracuse history when we played together out there on the court, was amazing. So those are some of the things that I hold near and dear to my heart.
That coming here from Kris Joseph here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora in tourney time talk for this conference tournament week. And Kris, like you said, for you, it's the brotherhood. For you, it's when you start that drive from Montreal. It's not getting into the Dome. It's all the way there. It's all of those moments that you had, and not just with your teammates, but like you said, with those that came before you. That brotherhood that you spoke about, John Wallace, Derek Coleman, being around guys that know you know them because they played the game at Syracuse, you played the game at Syracuse. When you have that brotherhood and that connection, why do you think it's tight? Why do you think it's close? Why do you think that former players want to connect, and that John Wallace would want to know Kris Joseph, and that Kris Joseph would want to know Joe Girard III? Why do you think the brotherhood is the way it is?
That's purely because of coach. We all play for the same coach. So for me, obviously every player that I'm a proud Syracuse alum, regardless of what, but a lot of former teammates of mine stopped going as much when the guys who they played with, maybe you were a senior when CJ was a freshman, and you have 3 more years of seeing CJ when you go back to campus. Sometimes when there's no more players that you know, you're a little more, you're like, who am I going to talk to when I go up there, pretty much. But for me, it's coach, man. Coach, the staff, and I think guys like John Wallace, Derek Coleman, we all share that one coach in common. So they come back and it's love. You know, and then more times than not, a lot of guys who are on the staff were former players. So John Wall is coming back. There's a Coach Hop. You know, the brotherhood just continued throughout the years, because even you look at the staff now, everybody who's on there played for Coach. So of course there's going to be guys who come back and has had relationships with the guys on the staff as players, or just knowing them from coming back up to campus when they were gone. So, you know, Coach is the link between all of them, and it's just because of how long he's been there, the great work that he's put in for 48 seasons, and the work that he continues to do. So, you know, I think that's what it is. And again, I think everybody, you know, a lot of guys bleed orange. A guy like Dante Green, who people may not see so often, but it was only at Syracuse for a year, but he will give his left arm, you know, for somebody from the Qs. He bleeds orange for real. We speak often. And I think that's the feel that everybody gets. And also I gotta give credit to the fans, man. If the fans were terrible, you know, I know some friends of mine who don't go back to their school because they feel like they don't get the love that they deserve. One thing that Syracuse Nation, you know, will make you feel is love anytime you go back to campus. And, you know, I spoke about driving up 81, but when you go into the Dome and I'm just, you know, sitting around and whatever seat that they give me in whatever section, and everybody around is just so happy to see me. It's like you really feel like you did some great work here, and you're really, really appreciated. There's nothing better than that in the world. You feel like you're appreciated for the things that you've done.
And coming here from Syracuse Orange Basketball alum Kris Joseph on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora's Tourney Time Talk all throughout the week, having Syracuse Orange Basketball alumni on the show, as we have done for many, many years in many, many cities. We're in Greensboro, North Carolina this time around. Kris, you brought it up. I said, why is the brotherhood so strong at Syracuse? You said, because we all had the same coach. 47 years, Jim Boeheim, almost 5 decades of being the head coach at Syracuse. Nobody else has done this. And when it comes to Division I, we have never seen this. When it comes to basketball in and of itself, you don't see a coach spend this much time in one place. So you said, hey, we have the brotherhood as strong as we have because we all played for the same coach. Jim Boeheim is a lightning rod. And I know this. The question, it's probably the same for you, Kris. The question I get asked more than any other question when it comes to sports every year is, when's Jim Boeheim going to retire? When's he going to be done? Dan, do you know when he's done? Do you have the inside scoop? When's he done? When's he done? Is he going to be done? Is he done now? Is he done yesterday? Was he done today? Always I get that. And I would love to get your thoughts on that, because you played for him, because like you said, the brotherhood is strong because of him. What are your thoughts on Jim Boeheim currently, when it seems like the fan base over the last couple of years has gotten very, not everybody, but that some people have gotten very, very loud about the fact that they don't want him there anymore?
You know, I think that he's going to leave on his own terms when he feels, you know, ready. The competitor that he is, I'm sure that going out on his own terms will probably mean going out with a winning season, maybe a tournament run, deep tournament run, so that his last, you know, the last thing that he did would be something great, you know, making a deep tournament run or something of that nature. But honestly, I feel like he's going to leave when he's getting ready. He knows more basketball, you know, than a lot of people, you know, and I think that people grow restless because, of course, they've been treated, you know, almost you want to say spoiled because of so many years of great basketball at Syracuse, you know, going back to the 80s. That, you know, a couple seasons is a couple down seasons, if you want to call them down seasons, we're not really used to it. You know, from an alumni standpoint, from thinking about, you know, my teams when I've been here, it's something that we're not used to seeing, but it's something that a lot of teams in the country, you know, go through. The only difference is that the other schools, when these things happen, they get these coaches out of here, you know, 3 years into their 5-year contract or whatever the case is, if they're not bringing in results. Boeheim, his body of work is obviously speaks for itself. You know what I mean? So I think we got to be more patient. You know, as hard as that may seem right now, we got to be patient. Especially right now, we got a great core of guys, great core freshmen that can really do some great things if they stick together. But again, to answer your question, he's going to leave when he's getting ready. I have no inside scoop. I have no real opinion on when I think he should retire or not. I just know that he's a great basketball coach. He's coached pros. He knows how to get kids to the next level. His staff is great at developing talent. And, you know, when he feels like, okay, I've done, you know, what I'm supposed to do, that's when he'll leave. Who knows? For all we know, he had an idea in his mind that he wanted to coach 50 years. And after 50, he might leave. I don't know. You know what I mean? So I guess we just got to stay tuned.
Yeah, and like you said, you know, you don't have an inside scoop. And he had written in one of his books, he said, you know, I'm going to leave, you know, like basically I'm not going to tell anybody when I'm going, and I'm going to leave an orange wake, you know, in my departure type of thing. I mean, like you said, fans are spoiled, and I agree with that. I know some people get offended by that, but it's reality. You know, when you think every single year my team's going to get 20 to 25 wins in the regular season and they're going to go to the Sweet 16, you know, I mean, you look at your environment, Kris. There's some teams that have never made the NCAA tournament ever once. So to make the tournament would be a blessing. To win their conference tournament would be a blessing. To not having a losing record would be a blessing. There's over 350 Division I schools. And there's so many, I mean, Division I, II, and III, there's over 400 in Division III. So, you know, you look at how difficult it is to make the tournament, 68 spots, 353 or 355, I think, teams at this time. So many schools out there trying to do it. Jim Boeheim has had 20 wins in 41 of 47 seasons. That's including this season if it didn't happen. 41 of 47 has been to the Final Four not once, but in multiple different decades, which means that he was able to get through to student athletes at different times during America and America's growth and progression. So to be able to go to the Final Four, to do it in multiple decades, to win a national championship, to have over 1,100 wins, and to be the only coach to do that in one place, as well as he is on a tiny, tiny list that I mentioned earlier in the show. If people do their research, which they should, when you're talking about a coach or anything, you should do your due diligence. Dean Smith and Jim Boeheim are two coaches in the history of college basketball that have only had one losing season when it comes to men's Division I. John Wooden had 0. So when you're looking at the list of one losing season or less, you have Jim Boeheim, Dean Smith, John Wooden. I would like to think... What'd you say?
I said that's great company right there.
Yeah. So I would like to think if you have one losing season or less in almost 50 years, plus you've made it to the Final Four in multiple decades, plus you've won a national championship, plus you have over 1,100 wins, I understand people's concern with the zone right now. I understand people wanting to see some offensive plays, and I understand my thoughts on some of the things. But I would think that Jim Boeheim has more than done his due diligence to leave when he wants to, when he feels like it. I don't feel like Dean Smith was kicked out the door, and I don't think John Wooden was either. So I would think that Jim Boeheim has every right, based on statistical analysis, to be able to say goodbye when he wants to say goodbye. And to bring it even more into reality, Kris, he's had 4 seasons in a row where he hasn't gotten to 20 wins. There's some coaches that have never gotten to 20 wins in the history of their coaching career.
Exactly. Again, when you break down analytics, I love that. You know, these are some of the stats that people do need to hear just to put things in perspective. You know what I mean? And perspective is everything. I do get it, because there's been times where I'm like, what's going on? I mean, we lost 2 scholarships because of whatever BS happened, and things of that nature. But, you know, and people say we're not getting the same recruits that we used to, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, we just got a McDonald's All-American, and we had a great freshman class coming this year. I think things are on the up and up. But those stats that you just reeled off are very important for the fan base to know and to understand, because it is difficult to get a win, to get 20, to get a win at this level in these conferences. We're talking, you know, in ACC, Big East, you know, the Power 5. It is hard to get a win. There's a lot that goes in. There's a lot of practice. There's a lot of prep work. There's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes to be able to be ready, for game day. And believe me, if Syracuse is doing it, so are other teams. So is, Georgia Tech. We lost Tech. But these teams are trying to win. You know what I mean? So one win is hard to get, let alone 20.
Yeah, a very, very difficult thing to do, and especially in today's game and the way the game is played. And I do want to mention Roy Williams as well. So Roy Williams, Dean Smith, John Wooden, and Jim Boeheim, all one losing season or less. Coach K has had 4. Granted, he was not at Duke the whole time. Jay Wright has had 5 losing seasons. So just to put some things into perspective for people out there that are wondering why Jim Boeheim's still the head coach, Kris, like you said, you have no inside track to when he's going to leave. He's going to do it when he feels like he wants to do it. How do you handle it? I mean, when you're in the Dome this season and there's like the student section is booing Jim Boeheim at times, how do you handle moments like that?
Well, I want to say this. The 2 times that I came to the Dome this year, we won. so I didn't hear any booing. But I think that's terrible. You know what I mean? Like, I really feel like that's unfair. You gotta, yes, at the end of the day, playing devil's advocate, you gotta understand, the frustration. I understand that. But we gotta have a lot more love for our coach. A lot of these people in the Dome, coach was there before they were born and cried before their parents were born and things of that nature, right? So we gotta appreciate Coach a lot more than that. For all the work that he's done, for all the work that he's put in for the city and for the program. You know what I mean? So for the university. So I feel like it's unfair. I personally, I never knew that happened, to be honest with you. So I'm shocked as you tell me this night. Now I'm shocked that even took place. You know what I mean? So I feel like that's really unfair.
That coming from Kris Joseph, Syracuse Orange men's basketball alum, starting off our week of Tourney Time talk that we do every single season, every year around this time with Syracuse Orange alumni. Win or lose for Syracuse in the ACC tournament, we carry our conversations with those that help to build the Dome that we have today, and before that, Manley Fieldhouse. So, Kris, before I let you go here, let's look to this team now and your thoughts on the current squad. What are your thoughts on this season for Syracuse, what you've seen from the guys? Granted, and I think people forget this, and I said this at the beginning of the year, when they said, Dan, how's the team going to do? And I said, nobody can answer that question with full truth. And the reason why I say that is because you have 7 new faces. More than half your team is new. Benny Williams had to take on a bigger role. Joe Girard was now going to play in position at shooting guard. So, you look at him switching back to the position he should have been in my opinion. You have Benny Williams that needs to do, some more this season and rise. And then you have 7 new faces coming onto the team, 6 true freshmen, and Munir Hema coming in. I didn't think that you could say anything about this team until you actually got to watch them play together. What is your assessment of the team now that we have gotten to see them playing as many games as they had? What's your take on the 2022-23 team?
Just that we need to be a little bit more consistent, use showing flashes of who we can be, get great wins against teams like NC State, going low at North Carolina. So we've had some good wins. And obviously we've had some really bad losses, and that's just, I think, due to the
Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. Happy to be here with you every single Monday through Friday from
really know the zone. It takes a while. It's not something that you could just learn overnight and be really good at it. No matter what people say, it's been a whole season and there's still holes in the zone. Well, yeah, because teams that they're playing against are really good. You look at a game like Duke where they were penetrating the gap and finding shooters. And, we had a rough 3-game stretch where teams scored 9 more points against us in the zone, to the point where we had to try to play man in one of our most recent games. I forget if we were playing there towards the end. But I think it's just the youth. And that's why I feel like if this group stays together, like you said, 7 youth to try to learn playing significant minutes. That's a youth playing significant minutes in a league that's full with, guys who've been around for 2 or 3 years, who understand the collegiate game of basketball, but not only that understand the ACC and what it takes to be a champion, what it takes to win in that league. So just the youth and the inexperience is my take on why, we struggle, because when they look good, on Saturday, they look great. Jesse looked aggressive, 20-20. I mean, that doesn't happen very, very often. The last person to do it, I believe, was Paul Harris, which is over 10 years ago. So, playing like a man out there, and Joe not being, like you say, he's getting the buddy behind treatment where he's getting face guarded damn near all game because they don't want him going off. So now we're relying heavily on a freshman point guard, Benny Williams, who's playing an increased role, but didn't play exactly as well as he could have throughout the season. So it's tough, and when you put all those things together, we still found ways to dig out some wins, and I truly believe that it's not 100% over. Things could happen in any tournament, a conference tournament, March Madness, where a team that wasn't supposed to loses. Now your next matchup, if you win, is a little bit easier. Maybe you're not looking to play a Virginia. Maybe Virginia loses to whoever they lose to. So things can happen, right? Obviously, you need a little luck. But overall, I think it was just the inexperience of the group that was our downfall.
That coming from Kris Joseph, and I can understand that completely. Kris, from Syracuse Orange men's basketball history. Kris, a final note here from you in our conversation here in Tourney Time Talk on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. What is it about Syracuse during this time of year when we're in March and we're conference tournament and, obviously NCAA tournament and whatnot? What do you get excited about, still as an alum now, when you're seeing this team, be it the Big East, the ACC, whatever it is, to see Syracuse have an opportunity to tip off in a season where everything's 0-0, win or lose? What is it about March that you love so very much?
You said it. It's a brand new season. You have a chance to give yourself a new identity, come out, give it everything you got, forget everything that's happened in the past, weeks, days. Now you're fully just engaged and into what's going on currently. And I think that we have the makeup to make some things happen, because when we're all clicking, we're an electrifying team. We have the athletes, we have the shooters, we have the inside presence, everything that we need to be successful, we have. So that's what it is for me. I'm looking forward to seeing these guys play. And we're playing Wake Forest in the first round, who we just, had our way with the other day. Of course, you got to expect Wake Forest to come in there with a new game plan and probably try to neutralize Jesse a little bit. But we have a lot of weapons on the team. It's just a matter of figuring out which ones need to be, going off at the right time.
Coming here from Kris Joseph. Kris, as always, I appreciate it. You're from up in Montreal, so I had to ask you this really quick. My dad's been up to Montreal. I've been to a bunch of different parts of Canada. I'm a big-time Raptors fan, so I've been to Toronto a bunch. So two-part question for you. Why should I come up to Montreal? And secondly, are you a Raptors fan? And please understand there is a right answer to that question.
Montreal, if you come to Montreal, if you're a poutine lover, of course, you got to come up here, because obviously we got the best poutine in the world. Better than Toronto. I don't know if you've ever had one out there. I know there's some places in Syracuse that say they love it, but I'm a big poutine guy. So if you enjoy a good poutine, come down to Montreal, then you'll be satisfied. And I'm definitely a Raptors fan. Definitely. Come on, I'm back from the Damon Stoudemire era. Of course, growing up, Vinsanity, Air Canada. Those were great times for us in Canada, where we had something to cheer for after the Grizzlies had moved on. So 100% a Raptors fan.
I love that, and I love that you said, come on, man, all the way back to Damon Stoudemire. He's the reason why I am a Raptors fan from day zero, 1994. I think the logo came out in 95. The team started competing. I've been a fan the whole time. And Kris Joe, I think we got to say this to everybody. Back in 2019, the Raptors did something that most people told me was impossible. They said, not only are you dumb for being a Raptors fan, but you like the only team that's not playing in America. How you even have an NBA team in Canada? And then they won, and I was sitting next to Katie Kalinsky when it happened. Shout out to Katie and her connection to Syracuse basketball. So Katie and I were sitting next to each other at the Wildcat Sports Pub, watching this game, watching this championship happen. And Kris, I'm sure you have some people out here as well as I do right now. So here's my public service announcement. Here's my PSA. To those of you that said the Raptors would never do it, that they couldn't do it, why would you like a Canadian team that's playing in America? They got nothing. Their logo's ridiculous. Have there even been Raptors in Toronto? And every other thing that you said to us over the years, Kris Joseph and I will be more than happy to send you a P.O. box to send your cards, your flowers, and your chocolates, because a lot of you still need to apologize to Kris and I know that's right.
100%. 100%. We the North, baby. We the North.
That's right. You know, dude, I got chills in my chest right now with you saying "We the North" on the show today. I'm feeling that. So I wish you were here so we could celebrate that. But hopefully, I mean, I got to see you the 2 times in the Dome, and yes, Syracuse won both times. I look forward to seeing you soon. And the next time that we do something together, I would love the opportunity, Kris, that when we're face to face, that we wear some "We the North" gear and we do the show truly the right way.
Yes, sir. That's the only way to do it.
All right, Kris Joseph, Syracuse Orange Basketball alum, and another person that is waiting for your apology on the Raptors. Thanks, Kris. Appreciate you.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
All right, take care. Hey, coming from Kris Joseph once again. Man, I feel that. I feel that in my chest, man. I feel that in my chest this morning. I love that. That's awesome. So cool. Raptors, it's good to hear somebody else on the show say "We the North." So I love that. We're going to take a step aside for a fast break. When we come back, Wake Up Call will be live as we continue our tourney time talk all throughout the week, featuring Syracuse Orange men's basketball alumni. I started this years and years ago, win, lose, or draw for the Syracuse Orange men's basketball team during championship week, heading all the way to the selection show. No matter what the season is, wins, losses, whatever's going on, Syracuse Orange men's basketball alumni call Wake Up Call home. And we have the opportunity to speak with so many of them. Coming up after this fast break, Dennis DuVal joins the show once again. Tourney Time Talk with Dennis right after this, where sports meets life. Stay with us.
Cafe Cabal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafecabal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Cabal needs. Cafe Cabal, coffee for the soul.
This is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating. Find them at 201 Old 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and all the time online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond. You can order all throughout the country at maandpaspopcorn.com. And remember to get your tins, which have in-store half-price refills forever. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory Factory available to you for fundraising and all of your events by calling 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
Witty Wicks Candles and Gift Shop, Township 5 Camillus, where you will find handcrafted all-natural soy wax candles over 60 cents to freshen up your home. We carry a wide range of locally made items, Syracuse, Syracuse Salt, and Chocolate Pizza Company, to name a few. Let our knowledgeable staff help choose unique gifts and keepsakes for any occasion. Gifts for family and friends, and maybe a little something for yourself. Witty Wicks Candles and Gift Shop, Township 5 Camillus.
And a welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios, hanging out with you where sports truly meets that thing called life. And we appreciate you being here with us every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. This week, we are going to give you an extra day, as yesterday we started off the week with an awesome feature with Bryan and Stratton women's basketball. Bryan and Stratton College of Syracuse women's basketball head coach Tay Baker speaking with me beyond basketball, beyond the court, a real talk on life and so many things that could be better in America. So having the conversation about many, many different things, I would implore all of you to go back and watch that video with Tay to start off this week about how America has been, where it is, and where we hope it can go. So a lot of wonderful things said from somebody I care about dearly. So check that Bobcat Buzz special out with Tay Baker. And all this week, all the way through Saturday, not Friday, Saturday, we're going to go an extended day on March 11th, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time each day. I have the opportunity of joining you here from Greensboro, which is right behind me here in the skyline, and we're having some fun down here at the ACC tournament. I'll be covering 15 schools in 5 days, Syracuse included, and no matter what happens with Syracuse, as we have done for many, many years on the show, we have Tourney Time Talk with Syracuse Orange men's basketball alumni, and they'll be joining me all week long, no matter what happens with the Syracuse Orange. So hopefully, good news for Syracuse as they continue on. No matter what, we'll be able to have the conversation because true Syracuse fans support the team win or lose, and true fans in general do that. So with that being said, I am so elated, as always, to have Dennis DuVal here on the show with me, Syracuse Orange men's basketball alum, a friend of mine, and somebody who has spent many years here on the show. So it's always my honor and my privilege to have him here with me. Dennis, how you doing today?
Good morning, Dan. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, and like I said off the air, Dennis, you know, when I put that you were coming on the show on Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, Twitter at Call DT, and Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT, I got messages last night and early this morning that said 2 words, Sweet D. So what are your thoughts on the fact that people don't forget that Dennis DuVal will always be Sweet D?
I don't have any problem with that whatsoever. When you get to my age, the fact that people remember you in a positive way, I'm good with that. As long as they're SU fans and they appreciate SU basketball, that's what I'm happy about.
Yeah, so a very, very much, appreciate everybody that remembers the history of, they say, you got to remember the history. You got to remember where you came from. And Dennis DuVal, a part of the Syracuse Orange men's basketball history. We just saw 2 jerseys get retired and put up in the rafters. Jerry McNamara, number 3, and number 1, Hakeem Warwick, both from the 2003 National Championship team. They joined number 15, Carmelo Anthony, from that team as well. Your jersey, Dennis, is up there in the rafters too. Number 22 is up there, and the picture that we have here on YouTube and Facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, is of that ceremonious day where number 22 went up into the rafters forever. What can you say about being a part of such a small group in Syracuse history, now that Hakeem Warwick and Jerry McNamara have joined you, what it's like to be one of the jerseys that every time you go into the Dome and you look up there, that Dennis DuVal is hanging there?
Well, obviously it's a great feeling, and with that feeling, it's an honor to be among what we consider, and the community considers, some of the best players in the history of Syracuse University basketball. I think that's the biggest honor, that you represent that by your jersey being hanging up there. So it is an extreme honor. I'm sure Jerry and the team feel the same way in terms of that. I was at the ceremony Friday night watching the game at the TAN Auditorium, the Veterans Auditorium, and I was also at the game witnessing that.
You know, and what are your words for Jerry McNamara and Hakeem Warwick now that they're a part of this very special group that has their jerseys up inside of the dome? What would you like to say to these gentlemen as part of that group as well?
First of all, welcome to the club. That's the first thing. It's a special club. Both of them are good and great human beings, and they recognize the fact that being there, what it carries with it. Both of them understand that from a long-term view in terms of the future and what they represent. But it's also about the Orange family and the fact that we've all come through that program. So I'm sure my words to them is nothing more than the fact that, you know, we're all family, whether our jerseys are up there or not, but the fact that they are highlights a little bit a bigger part maybe we have played in that process and that history.
I'm going to ask you a personal question here that forces you to reflect upon yourself. Dennis, why do you feel like your jersey is one of those jerseys up there?
Well, I didn't make that decision. History makes those decisions. I think that the fact that, you know, things that I did when I was in college, I was a two-time All-American. I was a first-team All-American my senior year. I was also an academic All-American. I think those things would help qualify me for being there. There would be some of the things. Choices were made by somebody else, but I think they looked at my overall career at Syracuse and what I did while I was there and deemed that would be necessary for those accomplishments would have been necessary for me to be there along with others that had those same accomplishments.
Speaking here with Dennis DuVal in Tourney Time Talk on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, Syracuse Orange men's basketball alumni, with me all throughout championship week here in the postseason of college basketball. Every year we have this week dedicated to Syracuse Orange men's basketball alumni, and if you listen to the show Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora throughout the year, we have Syracuse Orange alumni on all the time, so it is always an honor and a privilege, of course, during tourney time as well. Dennis, in the same respect of me asking why you feel you're up there, are there some names that you're surprised are not up there in the rafters yet?
Well, there's always names that could be there. When I say that, it took a while for mine to get there. So it's a matter of patience. And when I say that, I mean those that might not be there now, and I don't want to call those names out specifically. I think in due time they will be. If you look at the history of how it was done and how things are done, just think about this. It was 20 years ago that they won the national championship, and that their seasons have been over for a good period of time, you know, a lot of time. So it does take time, and I think it's appropriate that they're there, but it's not something that happens overnight. I think it's something that, for me, you know, it was a good period of time. But you know what? From my perspective, I always knew what I did in college, and I wasn't worried about it going away. History is what it is, and it doesn't. It just shows people that what happened in the past, and someone's going to evaluate that in the future for others to be put up there, whether it be this year, next year, or years to come.
Dennis DuVal here speaking on the jersey retirement for himself, Hakeem Warwick, as well as Jerry McNamara, and what's to come for the future. To look at the fact that Dennis and Kris Joseph said it right before you came on here. I said, why is the brotherhood so strong at Syracuse? His response, because we all had the same coach. What are your thoughts on the brotherhood at Syracuse, and does it become such a strong, close-knit family that spans decades because you all have a very unique common denominator, which is Jim Boeheim?
Well, the common denominator is Jim, but it's not only Jim. it's all the rest of us too. Jim was a major part of that. Jim wasn't my head coach. Jim was my position coach when I was in college.
Yeah.
But there was a closeness. He was my coach in terms of my position. But the fact that, Jim was in the same role as the rest of us. Jim was a player there. He was part of that Orange family when it all started. I mean, it started long before I was there, and it started before Jim was there. But the fact of the matter, Jim was a major, major influence on the way the program grew over the years. But we're all part of it. And I think Jim recognizes that. I mean, for all those guys that didn't specifically play for him, he has always, welcomed us and welcomed me and others into this Orange family and kept that going. I think that's the most important part. And I think that we realize what history is. We realize the place that all of us played and the responsibilities we had as Orangemen when we played to represent that team and that university.
And Dennis, like you said, Jim wasn't your head coach. Roy Danforth was, but you had Jim as a position coach. How would you describe him back then as an assistant?
Like most coaches, it was a pain, but it was a pain for a reason. He got you to do what you needed to do. He's tough. And I knew it back then. I knew he was going to be tough as a head coach. But things in life don't come easy. And motivation sometimes, everybody gets motivated differently. There's a lot at stake. When people see your talent and they see maybe that they can get more out of your talent and you could get more out of your talent, it takes a lot sometimes to motivate people to do more than what is expected of them. Coaching is not easy. Everyone, there's a lot of us, there's a lot of people that go to games that think they can coach. But I tell you, you sit on a bench, you have the responsibility for 11 to 12 different players with different personalities, different family backgrounds, coming from different parts of the country. And you got to bring all of that together, and you got to oversee all that on a daily basis, and you have to be successful. I say to them, try it sometimes. I try to coach my kids' 12-year-old basketball team. I had more problems with the parents than I did the kids, but the fact of the matter, it's just not that easy. It's just not that easy. And I respect all coaches, whatever sport it is. I respect them all for the hard work it takes to become one thing, to be able to do it, and secondly, to be successful at the level that Jim was at.
Yeah, and back then, I know obviously you're a student athlete, and you're young and going about your life on and off the court. Did you, as a position coach with Jim Boeheim, did you see head coach in him? Like you said, he was a pain, but it was worth it. Could you see the head coach in him, or is that not something that you saw at the time?
Well, yeah, I could, and I say, I'm qualified when I say about it as a pain. I mean that good coaches create an environment for you to succeed, but it isn't always comfortable, and it doesn't always have to be comfortable to learn. So a lot of times when we had timeouts during a game and my coach was saying one thing, I would always look over to Boeheim, before I go on the floor, because sometimes there were plays that were called and I was saying to myself, man, we haven't run that all night. Why not? You know what I mean? And he would just look at me and say, run the play, go through what you're supposed to go through. And then the next day we'd have discussions on it, you know what I mean? Why it worked, why it didn't work, and what my recommendations were relative to that night and that circumstance. To me, that's one way of being a coach. But on the same token, he's not just telling, he's listening. I don't know what he does now. I'm not sitting in that locker room. So I'm sure he does a lot of things that he's been consistent over the years, other things. But like I said, learning doesn't have to be comfortable all the time. It doesn't have to be, coaching doesn't have to be the hand around your, around your back and hugging you. That's the way it works, especially at that level.
Yeah, no, and I love that, because we need that. And I think this world, in a way, has kind of forgotten that, right? You can't just lullaby people into becoming better people. You have to have that tough love, and you got to push them. And, so you look at Jim Boeheim, 47 years, like you said. He was a player. He was position coach for you. Took over a couple of years after you finished up at Syracuse. And now, 47 years later, this man he's the only person to do what he's done at one school. Over 1,100 wins, Final Fours in multiple decades, a national championship. He is one of 4 coaches, and my apologies to Roy Williams here that I hadn't mentioned it before, one of 4 coaches that has 1 losing season or less in their entire tenure. Roy Williams, Dean Smith, John Wooden, who had 0, and Jim Boeheim. So looking at that, Dennis, we live in a world today where many people over the last couple of years especially, I mean, I've witnessed it for years and so have you, but it seems like this year and last year there has been a mass influx of people screaming for Jim Boeheim to leave. How do you assess everything he's done, and yet here we are with people saying, yeah, we don't want it anymore?
Well, that's their opinion. Doesn't mean it's right. I mean, that's their opinion. I think that Jim has earned the respect that to coach, and I'm sure there'll be a period of time where he'll make that decision collectively, I'm sure with the university, in a way that is appropriate for him. But if I was him, and let's put myself in that position, if someone was asking me about my retirement, I'd be offended about it, especially while I'm actively involved in it. Yeah. I mean, just like now on my job right now, someone was asking you about your retirement. When are you retiring? They're basically saying that, whether it's a reporter, whether it's somebody, doesn't matter who it is. That could be offensive to people, especially when you're trying to work as hard as you are now as you were when you started. Yeah. So I think to look at from Jim's perspective, it would be annoying to me. Yeah. The fact that there is a sentiment among certain fans that like to see him gone, that's understandable. Doesn't mean I agree with it. I don't personally agree with it. I think that there's a time and place for everything. And I think the fact that what he has contributed to the Syracuse basketball program, what he has contributed to the university, and what he has contributed to this community as a whole, between him and his wife and the things that they've done from a philanthropic perspective, I think give him that time. I'm sure he'll make the appropriate decision when it comes. But why get in a position to force him out the door? I'm sure between him and the university, they collectively will figure this out, and we'll go from there. But the fact that when he does leave, he's one of the greatest.
Yeah, and going off of your point that you just made, Dennis, I posted this yesterday early in the morning because I felt the need to. So I'm going to read everything that I said, and a lot of it intertwines with what you said, but I'd love to get your thoughts on it. It says, these are my words yesterday morning. I've said them before, but here's a concise look at my words. No matter what Jim Boeheim does, I want to take a minute to ask you if you'd like someone to come to your job and ask you daily and yearly when you're going to retire and talk about you nonstop for decades. How would you respond to someone constantly asking you to leave your job? I went on to say, after that, the reality is Jim Boeheim is a prisoner of his own success. He created the standard for Syracuse men's basketball, which in my opinion is 20-plus wins and a Sweet 16 or bust every year. If he doesn't get the team there, he's a failure to some, because he didn't hit the level he created. But what would Syracuse fans have known as a quote-unquote good season if they didn't have him? What happens if and when the next coach doesn't hit the standard of the man you can't wait to get rid of? Your thoughts?
Well, first of all, my thoughts of this, being a former player and not wanting to ever lose anytime you step on the floor, you have to understand the Syracuse community as a whole. We're tough. This is a different fan base. This is from the rest of the country. And if you don't acknowledge that first, then you don't understand Syracuse. If you're not winning, they're not there. It's just as simple as that. And they have to, all the fans have to look in the mirror and acknowledge that. We're tough. We're different than most places. I've said this before in the air, and I don't mind repeating this because it's part of history. I lost one home game in 4 years of college. And that game was an overtime game to Connecticut. And you know what? We got booed when we came off the floor that night. I'll never forget that. But you know what? I moved on from it because we had to keep playing. We're tough, and sometimes for the wrong reasons, but we are who we are. So, we have to look in the mirror as fans sometimes and think, are we satisfied with what we have? Oh, we never satisfied. So, winning is great, but it's being a fan is more than just going to the games that you win. Being a fan sometimes is supporting the teams even when they're down, supporting them the same way when they're up as you do when they're down. And sometimes, a lot of fans don't want to do that, and that's their choice. I personally, when I go to games, I hear a lot of things that I don't want to hear from the fan bases, but I have to accept that. We're all experts when we're sitting in that seat during that game. But if you got to sit on that bench, it'd be a different story. And sometimes we need to think about that when we're critical of the things that are happening in a game. And remember, it's a game.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And thank you for that. I mean, it is true. This is my hometown, and I've been in the Dome where Trevor Cooney was booed more than he could have gotten booed at Cameron Indoor. And and I've said to fans, to me there's a difference between fans and fanatics. Now, fans they can be upset, they can constructively criticize, but they'll always love you. Win, lose, or draw, they'll stand up, they'll clap for you. They'll try and find the silver lining. Fanatics go to games because their wife hates them and they got out of the house for 2 hours and they're screaming at Jim Boeheim because they can't scream at their wife. So, that is my feeling between fans and fanatics. Internet trolls, people that boo the person that misses the half-court shot in the Dome, people that, boo kids, throw snow at Santa Claus, that type of stuff. If you are at a game and a fan is doing a free throw challenge and he misses all of them short and you boo him, you should be ashamed of yourself. If you're at a game and it's your home team and your home coach and your home players and you boo them, you should be ashamed of yourself. Now, if Syracuse got in a giant fight with UConn and guys were throwing punches and you booed Syracuse like, guys, you need to be better than that, I understand that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about an actual game play. You don't boo your coach. You don't boo your team. You don't boo your student athletes. You don't boo the kid that's trying to do the challenge on the court during a 2-minute break. So to me, there's certain things that shouldn't happen, and that's the difference between fans and fanatics. I've met fans that are frustrated with the 2-3 zone, but they respect Jim Boeheim and they want the team to win. And I've met fans that would set their hair on fire and stand outside of Jim Boeheim's house and tell him, why can't you put the fire out that's on my head? So, I mean, there's two different types of people. I think fanatics should stay in a bunker in their basement and leave everybody alone. And I think fans should show up. But, I find it hard, Dennis, to fathom enduring a hometown crowd booing you, but you said you experienced that as well.
Yeah, I have. And let's just talk about the 2-3 zone. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Most fans don't even know how it works. They have a clue. All they do is they see and hear what somebody's talking about. They don't understand conceptually what it is and how it works. It's basically a man-to-man zone. It's basically man-to-man in a zone concept with backfills on the backside, just like you would do in a man-to-man. And without, the problem that they've had recently is that they haven't been playing good defense. Jim has said that many a times. Now, you take last game, you take the Wake game. They played tremendous defense. They got back in transition. These are all things, whether you're playing man-to-man or you're playing zone, that have to take place in order to be successful. Being an expert on the 2-3 zones, there are people all over the country that have copied Jim Boeheim's concept in the zone, not only in college basketball, but in professional basketball. They've implemented that 2-3 zone based upon Jim's knowledge and basically seeking him out to that. So if it doesn't work and it's not good and you're tired of seeing it, that's fine. But, there's a lot of plays that are called. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of identities that teams have based upon their coach, and they all have it. Either you accept them or you don't. But the fact of the matter is there's a lot of games that have been won with that 2-3 zone. And the strategic part of it is when you get up in points, you might not it's harder to come back off a zone. You have to make shots. If I'm going to lose, I'm going to lose from people shooting from the outside, not inside, not driving to the basket. So it puts a lot of pressure on the offense to have to make shots. But a lot of teams never get used to playing against it. So we had it when I was in school, when Danforth was the coach. We did a lot of pressing also with that. We had a different type of team. So we had a smaller team. We got up and down the floor a little bit different on the transition, and we put pressure differently. So to the experts that are out there that don't like the 2-3 zone, all I can tell you is this, is that you got to do what works. You got to do what you know how to do, and you recruit players based upon how you want to play. It's just that simple.
Well, the thing is, Dennis, I mean, the 2-3 zone, which, I mean, the zone 2-3 as opposed to a 3-2, and I've said this before, I've played 2-3, 3-2, 2-1-2, box and one, man-to-man. I played all different defenses, and being 5'8", I was always at the top. And most of the time, unless I had a coach that decided I was a power forward, to which I said, I'm not, but thank you. And but usually on the top of the zone, I mean, I know a zone is set up for a 2-3 zone is set up for teams that typically don't shoot well from 3-point range. Knowing that teams shoot so well now, and that everybody's shooting, centers are shooting, power forwards are shooting, and they'll shoot between the 3-point line and half court. They don't even care at this point. Do you think that Jim has to evolve and look at some things differently now because the game has evolved?
Well, to answer your question, the best shooters in the world are in the NBA, correct? I mean, let's just take that for granted. The best shooters in basketball right now are in the NBA, and they play zone. So if they can do it, why can't we? The other side of it is this. I think Jim has made some adjustments. But, in terms of what happens on the floor, it's about executing. It's about that team or those personnel on the floor. If you're executing properly, most of the time you can defend against those things. Usually it's because of poor execution on whether you're playing man-to-man or you're playing zone. So the fact that, teams have better shooters, teams are shooting from the outside, the forwards and the centers are shooting, but that's throughout basketball at all levels. You got kids in junior high taking 3-pointers. You got kids that shouldn't be taking them. So that's the world we live in, is 3-pointing. The zone isn't obsolete just because people have been able to shoot further from out. They've used that too to defend there because you can pick them up further out. So the zone can be pushed out a little bit further. So there has been some, to say that Jim needs to adjust, I think Jim has adjusted. But it's a matter of execution for the people that are on the floor. Sometimes you got to pick that guy up. You got to recognize who's where in those positions, and you have to get out on it. Sometimes that doesn't happen. I mean, I look at the game maybe a little bit differently, going as it's moving and going along than others. I know I can see when someone gets the shot and is repeatedly getting that shot. Someone is not getting out on them. Someone is not moving when they're supposed to be moving. So that's the causation for those breakdowns in the defense. So I look at it a little bit. It'd be the same if they were guarding them on man-to-man. If they're not moving their feet, they're not moving along, same thing can happen. So it's just a matter of, how you want to look at it.
That coming from Dennis DuVal here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. Dennis, a final point here. Words of advice to the current Syracuse team. They've gone through this season with 7 new faces, 6 true freshmen, and transfer Munir Hema. Benny Williams has been asked to do more this season. Joe Girard is back in his normal position of shooting guard. There's been a lot of changes. There's been more different than similar from last season to this season. And when I was asked the question, and I mentioned this earlier, when I was asked the question going into the season of, what do you think about Syracuse? How good are they going to be? I said, nobody can answer that question with full truth. And people look at you and I said, There's no way that anybody can sit here and tell you that 6 true freshmen and a transfer are going to come in and do any of this. Most of them have never played together before. 6 of them have never played a college basketball game. Munir Hima's coming on to a different team, and Joe is going to a position that he used to play at, so he's got to shift there. Benny's got more that he's being asked to do. There's no way that anybody can come to you and tell you on paper what this team is going to look like, because how could you possibly know with so many new variables on the team? So with that being said, do you agree or disagree that this was going into the season, there was really no true way to assess them until they played? And then secondly, what are your thoughts on the team right now?
Well, my thought on the team, several things. I agree with of your perception of how this team was going to be this year. It was going to be difficult to begin with. It's not an easy situation when you got all new players, young players that come in and even understand, what happens in the course of a season to begin with. The second thing is that right now they're playing for pride, and that was demonstrated to me the other night at the Wake game. Those guys played with pride, and they didn't give up. They were, they're aggressive. But, throughout the season, I didn't see any give up on them. Yeah, they lost some games. Young teams lose games. Young teams make mistakes down the stretch. And that happens. That's why they don't win a lot of games. But the fact of the matter is, I think next year they'll be even better. I think it takes time. I think Jim knew. I mean, he's never someone to give you a forecast of how good the season is going to be to begin with. But the expectation, like you said, shouldn't have been there that they were going to be this great team. And I think it takes a while to adjust. It takes a while to understand the system and to be comfortable in it. But the most thing that I saw the other night when I was at the game, and I've been watching the games, is that they played with pride. And I think that ending their season is to play for the pride of your teammates and for the pride of the university and the school. And play as hard as you can, to end your season on a positive note going to next year, which is just as important as this year. I think if people understand that and accept that as fans, they'll appreciate what they did this year even more. And I think that the future holds a different story for them. But I like what I saw, and I do appreciate how they played.
Yeah, that coming from Dennis DuVal here, as this team has new life in a new season as we step into championship week in the ACC tournament. I am down here in Greensboro, North Carolina, covering 15 schools in 5 days. No matter what happens, I'll be here with you, and no matter what happens, the Syracuse Orange Basketball alumni will be as well. Dennis, as always, I appreciate your time. I'm happy that your jersey is up there in the rafters, and I'm happy to have you on the show as we always do, and to call you a friend. So thank you for always answering my phone calls and being there, and thank you for everything that you bring to the table. I really do appreciate you, and I appreciate the way you break down the game.
Thank you. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak to the fans, and go Cuse.
Yeah, coming from Dennis DuVal. Thank you, sir. I'll talk with you soon.
Yep.
Take care. That coming from Dennis once again here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We'll take a step aside for a fast break here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We'll be back with the ingredients to success, which will focus on the New York Giants. Today is franchise tag day. What are they going to do? We'll talk about it right after this on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Avicolli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicolli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicolli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there. And of course, you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100. And also find them on myavicollis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
PB&J's Lunchbox, the food truck that you love finding all throughout Central and Upstate New York, now has a street-side cafe. So when you're craving their traditional favorites as well as their out-of-box amazing menu items, you can now head to 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Located just minutes from the highway, the Thruway, Destiny USA, and Onondaga Lake Parkway, PB&J's Lunchbox Street-Side Cafe is there for you Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner all throughout the day. Get breakfast for dinner, dinner for lunch, whatever you fancy, including their award-winning grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Find them at 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. PB&J's Lunchbox, where we love to know what's in your lunchbox. This is a special message from 317 at Montgomery restaurant owner Joel Carpenter. Open Tuesday through Saturday for your dining pleasure on 317 Montgomery Street in Syracuse, New York.
We wanted to be a part of the resurgence of Syracuse. We saw a lot of money being put into bringing people back downtown and thought that, we'd like to be a part of that. I love putting together a good dish where people see it first, they fall in love with it, and then it tastes just as good as it looks. We want to provide the best food in Syracuse that we possibly can, and we want you to leave here talking to your family, your friends about what you had to eat first and foremost, but also our service, and to walk out feeling like you're part of our family. I work out in the front of the house a lot, and I love walking to every single table, asking them how everything is, and people looking at me and smiling and saying, this is the most amazing short rib I've ever had. This is the most amazing filet I've ever had. And Donna is great. Sarah's amazing. Thank you for coming over and talking to us. And them just being truly happy for the experience that they've gotten.
317 at Montgomery Restaurant, part of the fabric of downtown Syracuse, located on 317 Montgomery Street in Syracuse, New York. Open Tuesday through Saturday for a unique and memorable dining experience. This is a special message from Merritt Brady, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Watertown on 1290 Arsenal Street in Watertown, New York.
Chick-fil-A for me has always been about the people. I think it starts with the strength and leadership of the Cathy family. It's just amazing to see a family-run business reach the altitude that they have. Second mile service is something that we embodied at my previous business, and the ability to make people feel like they're the only person at your establishment, that you are there to serve them that day and looking for those extra ways to make them happy, to anticipate what they need next is what what makes me tick, and I'm going to have so many opportunities at Chick-fil-A to do that. It's one of my favorite things to eat in the world. My favorite application question or interview question when I'm interviewing is when I get to, have you ever eaten at Chick-fil-A? And a smile hits both their ears. They can't even answer the question for a second. And when I see that, it's like, man, that's going to be a great hire. They already get it. They already feel it. They already know that we're different. The Chick-fil-A experience, it's a real thing. And then, of course, just our generosity and community involvement and making a positive impact in the lives of our team members, our guests, and the community in general, I think is really the secret sauce.
Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios, hanging out with you where sports meets that thing called life. Cafe Kubal on 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, 401 Excelsior Line Street, all in Syracuse, New York. You also find them on 343 Fayette Street in Manlius and on the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners in their drive-thru location, where Lily and I just spent some time trying their new menu and the return of the Upstate Grinder, which to me is the best sandwich that they have. So go out and get it at Cafe Kubal today. Fill your cup up right, get that Upstate Grinder, get some awesome food and treats, and go through the drive-thru with your pup and have a good time. So I appreciate you for celebrating local and central and upstate New York at Cafe Kubal and everywhere you can go in our great community that we have so many wonderful partners in. So thank you for that, and a big time God bless for that as well. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life, we're going to jump into our final piece, which is every Tuesday we end the show with the ingredients to success. The ingredients to success, proudly presented by Avicolli's on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, located on 7839 Oswego Road in Liverpool, down the street from Liverpool High School. And we celebrate every single month the Liverpool Warriors on site, on location, with live broadcasts from Avicolli's exclusively. And this season, as in many seasons, we have sat down with the girls and boys basketball teams. This season, both teams are Section 3 Class AA champions, and they both have an opportunity to fight for a state title this season together, which is incredible. So go back and watch those shows with the boys basketball team and the girls basketball team from Liverpool on site, on location at Avicolli's. I'll be re-airing those on all of our social media, so you can check those out there as well. Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, Twitter at Call DT, and Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT. It's time to get into the ingredients to success, proudly presented by Avicolli's, and we're going to talk about the Giants. That's my topic today. What do the Giants do? It's franchise tag day, folks. So what are the Giants going to do with their franchise tag? Well, it's coming down to, are they going to sign Saquon Barkley, or are they going to sign Daniel Jones? Now, Saquon is coming off of a fantastic season. He finally stayed healthy, and in staying healthy, he had himself a tremendous year. Now, I told you that, in my opinion, Saquon Barkley having a new running backs coach this year, DeAndre Smith, that we were going to see Saquon get better. Because, as I stated earlier, I've seen DeAndre do great things. I met him at Syracuse. He's been in multiple different places, and North Carolina. He's been out of Utah State. He's been at Texas Tech and whatnot. DeAndre has made non-household names household names in working with them. So I stated he's going to turn a household name back into a household name. It would be DeAndre Smith. If he could take a non-household name and help that player to get the best out of themselves, to become something truly special. I mean, obviously you give credit to the player, and I give credit to DeAndre and helping to coach him. DeAndre, where he's gone, his track record has spoken for himself, that Michael Carter, Darwin Thompson, and so on and so forth, guys you may have not known, you know now. Saquon Barkley was a guy that you knew. And coming off of injury, coming off of, being there with the Giants and not having the seasons that people had anticipated and hoped. Last season, he played in 13 games and had 593 yards. The season before, he was hurt. So the question is, how do you get Saquon back to Saquon? Well, you bring in the guy that knows what he's doing, DeAndre Smith. And Saquon Barkley this season played in 16 games, 295 attempts for 1,312 yards. His first 1,000-yard season of the last 3 seasons. He started off his career with 1,307 as a rookie and 1,003 after that. This is his third 1,000-yard season in 5 seasons, all with the Giants. And he got back to having double-digit touchdowns on the ground for the first time since his rookie season. He had 11 then in 2018-19, and here in this season, 2022-23, he had 10 rushing touchdowns. So like I said, if you want to make a non-household name a household name, you bring in DeAndre Smith. If you want to return a household name to the household, you bring in DeAndre Smith. And he did that with Saquon Barkley, taking somebody who we knew, and now, Saquon looking more like Saquon. And obviously I give Saquon credit for getting his body right, getting back, getting healthy, getting better. And from there to be able to see, what a season with DeAndre Smith can do for him. So big shout out to Saquon Barkley, 1,300-yard plus back this season. And the last time he had a season this good, like I said, he was a rookie. So to see that 4 years later, hopefully that's good things and good durability for his body and so on and so forth. So I'm happy to see what he's going to do coming up. But the question is, what do the Giants do? I've been saying for years, based on the Giants not having receivers, based on the Giants not having the protection that they needed to have, that I was concerned that once his rookie season was over, that was going to be it, right? Or not his rookie season, pardon me, his rookie contract was over, that was going to be it. That, and I've said for the last couple of years, if the Giants can't figure it out, then Saquon, to me, is not going to be a Giant after his rookie contract ends. Now his rookie contract is ending, and he's not signed. So will he be a Giant after this is the big question. And mind you, he's got over 1,300 yards. He's very, very marketable right now. So, and a team would be blessed to have somebody like Saquon Barkley. Now you're taking him away from DeAndre Smith, unless DeAndre were to go with him. So that's a piece of it that I look to. But at the end of the day, looking at his stock right now, his stock is on the rise. Another stock that's on the rise with the Giants, Daniel Jones, who they did not pick up the final year of the contract, of the rookie contract on, after he was drafted 6th overall. And I think I might have said a few weeks ago he was 4th overall, so my apologies on that. A top 10 pick out of Duke, and I covered him there, and I spoke with his head coach at the time, David Cutcliffe, about him. Daniel Jones was a guy who they kind of just threw out there and said, you know what, we're not going to pick up your option, go prove yourself. And he did. So now the Giants are caught with 2 guys under their rookie contracts who have both proven themselves. And that is the issue that they're going to have to figure it out. If you're going to keep Daniel Jones your quarterback, because you can't win a Super Bowl in the NFL without a good quarterback, that's been proven. And so, you need to have that good quarterback. And at the same time, you also need to have Saquon in your back. Well, you would like to have Saquon in your backfield, I would say. So this is where we are right now. Who are they going to sign? So the Giants do not have a long-term deal with either one of them. And that's the issue. So today, by 4 p.m. Eastern Time, that is the franchise tag deadline. So if they want to hold on to Saquon, they got to tag him. If they want to hold on to Daniel, they got to tag him. You can only use the franchise tag on one player per season. And that is franchise or transition tag. You can only use one tag per off season on one player. So if you put it on Jones, goodbye to Barkley. If you put it on Barkley, well, then you could see a goodbye to Daniel Jones as teams. I mean, and listen, you're looking at teams that are in a situation right now where they're hoping for good things in the draft, right? But you got a guy who spent multiple seasons in the NFL as opposed to a guy who's a rookie. Better thing to have here. Now, Greg said, here we are in year 5 and still not having a definitive idea what to do with Jones. What a unique predicament. Yeah. So my ingredients to success for the Giants, make better moves so that you're not in this position. But now that you're in this position, my best advice to the Giants are figure out who's more valuable to you. Think about who, in your opinion, holds more value. Is it Daniel Jones or is it Saquon Barkley? Again, Saquon is back to being 1,000-yard back, 1,300 plus yards this season. He's back to having double-digit touchdowns on the ground after he did it as a rookie. So here we are looking at his numbers saying, okay, he's come back. Last year, he looked like a shell of himself. The year before that, he was hurt. So do you want to put your money on Saquon, hoping that things are going to get better now? Now, he went through his rookie contract, but they did have that option for the 5th year. So that's why we're seeing 2 rookie contracts coming up at different times, right? Well, they're coming up at the same time, but different years. Saquon, they took the 5th year option, so now his rookie contract's done. Daniel Jones, they didn't take the 5th year option, and now his contract's done. Daniel Jones in 4 seasons with the Giants, he had over 3,000 yards in 2019, 3,027, 24 touchdowns, 12 picks. The next year he had 2,943, a little bit less, 11 touchdowns to 10 interceptions. And then in 2021-22, he had 2,428 yards. So his numbers, yardage-wise, went down from year 1 to 2 to 3. His touchdowns went down from 24 to 11 to 10. And his interceptions went down from 12 to 10 to 7. So that was a positive that he had there. And then in 2022-23, the team went to the playoffs. He had 3,205 yards, which is the most he's ever had. So now we're looking at Saquon saying, okay, the last year of your rookie deal, this is your best yardage. Touchdowns 15-5, so that's a good thing there too. Now, not as much as 24 in his first season at the helm of the Giants offense, but he also doesn't have double-digit interceptions for now 2 years in a row. You look at the last 2 seasons combined, he had 12 interceptions, where in his first season he had 12 in just that single season of 2019-2020. So, you know, there is that notion and that reality that that individual players, when they know they're in a contract year, you get the most out. All of a sudden, they're starting to play a lot better, right? And so you're wondering, like, was this in them the whole time? And now they just kicked it into this gear because they know they got to stay in the NFL. How much does that play a factor, knowing that your back's against the wall? But you know, now the back's against the wall for these guys to have to figure it out. Greg said Giants do have an option to sign both long-term, will hamper the team with other signings. The lone positive news, the Giants do have some cap space. So yeah, I mean, you got to figure out how you're going to make this happen. And you can sign these guys long-term. You can franchise tag one of them and sign the other one long-term and try and figure it out. But as far as cap space, the Giants are 3rd with the most amount of money out of 32 teams. So the Jaguars, this makes me really happy here. Well, it doesn't make me happy. The Jaguars are in negative cap space right now, so they have to do some things. But the Jaguars had a ton of money to work with a few years ago, and now that they've spent good money on good players, now they're at the bottom of the list. So I'm happy to see that their money's been well spent in recent history. The Chicago Bears have almost $100 million in cap space right now. $96.895 million available. Atlanta is second with over $67 million. The Giants are third with over $46 million in free cap space, $46.507 in free cap space. So they do have the opportunity to sign. They would essentially, if they wanted to sign Daniel Jones and they wanted to sign Saquon Barkley, they could try and say, okay, Saquon, we're going to sign you for $10 million a year, right? So then that would take that cap to 36, and then say to Daniel Jones, we're going to pay you 20-something, right? But he's probably asking potentially for 30. If he did get, let's say, 25 and 10 for Daniel Jones, 25 for this upcoming season, 10 for Saquon Barkley, and say to the guys, hey, we can make the contract, you know, on an incline here, but right now let's get some other pieces in, let's make sure we can consistently make the playoffs, and then we'll improve your contract as we go. If they could go 25 and 10, then you got 35, which frees you up with $11 million in cap space, which isn't a ton of money, but if you sign Daniel Jones for 10 and you try to sign for $30 million a year and you try to sign Saquon for more than 10, now you're leaving yourself with $5 or $6 million to work with in cap space, which is not enough, and obviously you have to get some rookies out there. So you got to be smart about what you do here. Now, Greg said, do you attribute their success to coaching, overall improvement, or both? I think bringing in Brian Daboll has obviously helped them, and he was from a winning organization of recent history with the Buffalo Bills. So I think that helps in bringing in Brian Daboll. I also think Saquon being healthy helps. I think finally addressing the offensive line after I asked them to do it for 4 or 5 years, I think that helps too. So I think, and the receiving core is, getting a little bit better. So I think the Giants their success comes from a lot of different areas. I think it comes from the head coach. I think it comes from Daniel Jones having protection. I think it comes from Saquon being healthy. I think it comes with some more weapons being out there. I do think their offense could get better in receiver and tight end. But, when you address the offensive line, you help Saquon and Daniel Jones. And so really with, Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley being up for big contracts, they got to thank the offensive line for that, because it's not just them that's making that possible. So, to me, if it were me, I would franchise tag Daniel Jones, try and get a deal done, and then I would make a long-term deal with Saquon Barkley. Now, this is all contingent on him being healthy, right? This is a big what if, can he stay healthy is the big question. But if Saquon can stay healthy, which is, again, a massive if he can stay healthy, I would rather sign him for $10 million a year, right? And, $10 to $12 million a year, and then still have all that cap space to work with. So if I got $10 to $12 million a year, 46 available, that's giving me if I give him 12, so then that's going to give me $34 million to work with. I could franchise tag Daniel Jones, but and I know Greg. Listen, I didn't say the receiving core with the Giants is great. I'm saying it seemed a little bit better this year, but my reality, and I just said it, is that the Giants' tight end and receiving core could get way better, and I have been clear about that. I think those are two areas that could get better, but Daniel Jones is getting the ball out and doing some things that he needs to do, so I give him credit for that. Really, I want to credit the offensive line, Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley, and the coaching staff, Brian Daboll, DeAndre Smith, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, if it was up to me right now, I don't know if I would sign Daniel Jones long term, because I don't know if in back-to-back seasons he's going to give me what he needs to give me. I also don't know that about Saquon, but if I sign a long-term deal with Saquon, I'm not paying quarterback money. So that's how I would look at it. I can long-term $10 million a year Saquon, or I can long-term $30 million a year to Daniel Jones. So I think ingredients to success for the Giants, get better receivers. And I want to say go out there and get some receivers, get some tight ends, work on your defense, because you got to go up against the Eagles and company. I think Washington could get better. I'm hoping that Dallas can start to figure things out. So being in the NFC East, 8-9 isn't good enough. 9-8 isn't good enough. So I'd like to see more out of the Giants in the draft, doing some things with players that aren't going to cost them as much money, that they can develop and bank on and hopefully hit in the draft. And I would say just keep a watch of that offensive and defensive line, and understand that that's how you win championships. And if it was up to me today, I'd probably long-term sign Saquon and look at what I'm going to do with Daniel Jones, because the franchise tag, and that's the issue. The franchise tag is so high, so you think, why do players complain about this? Well, it's because they don't have job security, but they get a ton of money. It would be $32.4 million if they put it on Jones. So this is the devil's advocate to if I had to choose, because if you put the franchise tag on Daniel Jones, that's 32. If you sign Saquon to a long-term deal for $10 million a year, that's 42.4, and now you have $4 million to work with in your cap space. So that would be the downfall to the decision of signing Saquon long-term and not Daniel Jones. Because if you sign Saquon long-term and you look at the franchise tag for Saquon, now we're looking at a different area. That would be $10 million. And that's exactly what I would want to pay him anyways. So if you really have a toss-up and you really don't know, I mean, like I said, if it was up to me long-term, if I'm signing long-term deals, I'm trying to get Daniel Jones under $30 million a year, and I'm signing Saquon to 10. If I have to franchise tag somebody this year, I said I would tag Daniel Jones because I would want a long-term Saquon, because it makes more sense to see what Daniel can do in back-to-back seasons, but monetarily, it would make more sense for me to franchise tag Saquon Barkley at $10 million, which I want to pay him that anyways. So if I can't get them both under contract, then I would, if I can't get Saquon under contract, I'm going to give him 10 either way. So you give him $10 million and then you try to get Daniel Jones under contract. But is Daniel Jones going to ask for more than $30 million? That's the question. That's the issue. Because $32 million for a franchise tag with only $46 million in the bank in cap space is not what you want. But if Saquon's going to cost the same in franchise tag as he is going to sign, in signing a long-term deal, if I was the GM, then, either way, I want to make sure I get Saquon locked in. But Daniel Jones, I want to pay him under $30 million a season and kind of see where this goes for the next 3 years, let's say, with maybe an option for a fourth. So, that's the tough part. The cap space thing throws a monkey wrench in my franchise tag Daniel Jones. But if he's going to ask for way more than $32.4 million, then you might have to franchise tag him and then sign Saquon for that $10 million a year. I'm okay with $10 million for Saquon. I just, I would want to negotiate Daniel Jones below the franchise tag. And if that doesn't work, then you're going to have to realize that most of your cap space is going to go to these two players, which is not what I would want to do for the Giants. So, ultimately when it comes down to it, this is not an easy ingredients to success. I mean, they let both of these rookie contracts run out. And, well, I shouldn't say they let them run out. Saquon's, they took the option and it ended, but they let it run out before a new deal was signed. And then Daniel Jones, they didn't take that option. Now, if they had taken the option on Daniel Jones and they didn't put him in a situation of prove it this year, would he have played as good? That's a question. But at the same time, if they had taken that fifth-year option like they did with Saquon, then all they would have to lock in right now is Saquon. So hindsight 2020, your ingredients to success. If it was me, I would want to lock in Saquon and I'd franchise tag Daniel, but monetarily it doesn't make sense to do that. So I'd probably franchise Saquon and try to long-term deal Daniel. But if it's over $30 million, I'm not doing it. If I can get Saquon at $10 million franchise tag or long-term, I'm going to do that. I just don't. I wouldn't pay Daniel Jones. And this is not me saying go get your money, young man. I'm not saying that. I'm saying if I was the GM of the Giants right now, I would not want to give him more than $30 million a year, especially knowing how it's going to hit my cap this year. Greg said, well, the rubber meets the road today. We will see. Hopefully deals can be made that work for everyone. Yeah, they're going to have to figure it out. But, I mean, if you're this late into the 11th hour and these guys know what their franchise tag is going to be, I would imagine they're probably both asking for more than that. If I'm Saquon, take the $10 million. That's how I look at it. But if I'm Daniel Jones and I want to win a championship and I want to stay a Giant, then I would negotiate so that there's some more cap that's available. If he's asking for more than $32.4 million, then maybe you have to franchise tag him. It's just that would be an unfortunate situation. So, I mean, with everything that I said, because I devil's advocated myself, so let me finish the ingredients to success with what exactly I would do. So if it comes down to dollars and cents, get Daniel Jones to agree to a contract that's $30 million a season, no more, and franchise tag Saquon. Because Daniel Jones has been healthier than Saquon has. But if it was based on beyond the money, I would have Saquon locked in and then figure out Daniel. I don't know if I want to give Daniel Jones a 5-year deal. I might give him a 3-year deal with an option at a 4th. I don't know if I want to give him a 5-year deal. Saquon, I could look at giving him a... I mean, both of them. I think both of them are worth a 3-year with an option for a 4th. That's how I look at it. So if I'm the Giants right now, this is a predicament that you put yourself in because you forced Daniel Jones to prove himself, and he did. Now, if he didn't prove himself, then you just sign Saquon and move on with your life. But I don't mind $10 million for Saquon, franchise tag or long-term deal. I don't mind that at all. What I mind is the Daniel Jones cap hit, because I don't know if I want to give him $30 million. I don't think he's there yet. It's not that he can't get there. I don't think he's there yet. But that's my take. If I were the Giants general manager, we shall see what they do. This has been the Ingredients to Success, proudly presented by the wonderful people at Avicolli's on 7839 Oswego Road in Liverpool, New York. Make sure you check them out. Tuesday through Sunday, they are closed on Mondays, and they are open for lunch, dinner, and drinks Tuesday through Sunday. Make sure you drink responsibly. And, of course, you can get a hold of them by calling 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100. I want to thank you all for tuning in here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on YouTube.com and Facebook.com, both /Wake Up Call DT, as well as on Facebook.com /LiveNowDT, and on WakeUpCallDT.com's homepage, as well as on WakeUpCallDT.podbean.com. So thank you for tuning in to us live as well. You could search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT, on Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, MixLR, Player FM, Podbean, Podvine, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, and YouTube. Once again, search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. Thanks to our incredible partners, Cafe Kubal, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, Witty Wicks, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, PB&J's Lunchbox, Avicolli's, Mon Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay, Pizza Man, Great Lakes Honda City, as well as Mother's Cupboard, 317 at Montgomery Street. The name of the restaurant is the name of the location. And for Syracuse Dining Weeks, you can get 3 courses for $35. Call for reservations at 317 at Montgomery Street. Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Chick-fil-A Watertown, and Wake Up Call is your proud exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your. Head coach of the Lemoyne Dolphins women's lacrosse team, Liz Bevel, will also be featuring the head coach of the softball team at Lemoyne for the Dolphins, Tracy Roman. Both of them joining me this Wednesday, March 8th, on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, starting at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. So don't miss a second of that. Very excited to have them on the show. You can check out all of our content on the Lemoyne tab on wakeupcalldt.com, and of course you could subscribe to our YouTube channel on youtube.com /wakeupcalldt. For more information on your Dolphins, go to lemoynedolphins.com. The Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. You have the opportunity to hang out with the Bobcats every single month here where sports truly meets that thing called life. So make sure you are with us here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora and have the opportunity to connect with us and the Bobcats every single month in our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership. Both the men's and women's basketball teams have made it to the national tournament with an opportunity at winning their first ever national championship. The Bobcat Buzz will be covering that with head coach Tay Baker and his team for the women's basketball side of things at Bryan and Stratton College of Syracuse, and on the men's side with Clay Gagan Sherman, their head coach, and the team as well. A lot of great stuff coming up, and you can check out all of our content with the Bobcats by going to BSC Syracuse tab on wakeupcalldt.com, subscribing to youtube.com /wakeupcalldt, and for more information on your Bobcats, go to syracuse.bscbobcats.com. With all of that, I want to thank you for being a part of the show today. Inside of Ma and Pa's Popcorn.com is what's popping. By the way, while you're watching Championship Week, no better way to do it than with some popcorn and kettle corn from Ma and Pa's. Go to 201 Old 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. And while you are there, grab one of their tins. Any size of their tins, half-price refills for the rest of your life. So grab a tin, slap on your favorite team logo, or pick one of the beautiful tin designs that they have there. Get it and get your half-price refills for the rest of your life, and you can refill it all week long. Go and get a Syracuse one and refill it all week during the ACC tournament and have some fun with that. So, got to get your popcorn ready for what's coming up here with bracket time, and you definitely have to join us in the Wake Up Call Bracket Challenge and go to Ma and Pa's so that you can enjoy your popcorn and kettle corn while you watch these fantastic games during championship week with 32 conferences inside of Division I basketball vying for the opportunity of the NCAA tournament. So many teams, so many student athletes and head coaches, and of course after that we jump into the field of 68. The D3 tournament has already begun. D2 also coming up here. A lot of great stuff and a lot of reasons why you need a snack. So go to Ma and Pa's on 201 Old 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. They also have chocolate-covered pretzels, chocolate-covered Oreos, cotton candy, lemonade, and much more. So don't miss out on heading over there and supporting local. Big thanks to Christy Salters-Martin for Christy's Corner, an exclusive special we run with the champion. Here with us, the International Boxing Hall of Famer Christy Salters-Martin speaks with us on so many different topics in the boxing world as well as domestic violence. The book she has written, the Golden Gloves virtual reality video game that she is a part of, as well as everything else she has coming up, including the movie that she's going to be in West Virginia. So very excited for all of that. A big thanks to those that started off our Tourney Time Talk every single conference tournament week for many, many years now. We've had the opportunity every year to be joined by Syracuse Orange men's basketball alumni throughout the entire week, win or lose for Syracuse. We've started off this week with Kris Joseph and Dennis DuVal, and Dennis with his jersey also being retired with the Orange. So a God bless and a thanks to both of those gentlemen for joining the show, and to the Ingredients to Success, and shout out to Greg for giving us a topic that I wanted to jump into for the Ingredients to Success. So they kind of just bonded right there together, talking about the Giants and the franchise tag. And that segment, the Ingredients to Success, presented by Avicolli's. Go there for lunch today on 7839 Oswego Road, down the road from Liverpool High School, and where we have our exclusive monthly sit-down with Liverpool Warriors athletic programs, including the boys and girls basketball teams who have just won Section 3 Class AA championships, both of them, and they both have the opportunity to fight for a state title in the same season, which is really, really cool. And I get to say that we sat and ate pizza together at Avicolli's. So much thanks, much love to Avicolli's, to their staff, to John, and to everybody there, and as well a big-time thanks to Ari Lieberman and all of the coaches and student athletes and students and teachers and administration and faculty that are there at Liverpool High School. Much love and many thanks to the great community and to the wonderful high school at Liverpool and Avicolli's for being one of the neighbors in that community as well. So God bless and thank you all for that. Greg said enjoy the games today, enjoy the Greensboro weather, DT. I will. Very excited. I will be bringing you 15 schools in 5 days, coverage of every single ACC team inside of the ACC tournament here in Greensboro is going to be brought to you by Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. I'm proud to do that with this Greensboro skyline behind me. Thankful, grateful to God above everything else. Happy to be here. Happy to be on the road with Wake Up Call, which I use hashtag Wake Up Call OTR. Can't believe it's already conference tournament time. I can't believe the ACC men's basketball tournament starts today. But I'll be with you, and I'll be with these teams, and I'll be discussing with them and interviewing them and sharing that with you here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. So stay close to Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, Twitter at Call DT, and Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT. And in the meantime, God bless, no stress, do your best. Thanks for being a part of the show. Thanks for being with me in Greensboro, and God bless you all. Take care.